and gentlemen, we are your weekly wrestling podcast. I am your host, as always, Chad Portal. And joining me is my good friend, my compatriot, my compadre, my cohort, the wonderful, the paradoxical Marcus Green. Marcus, how are you?
What up? Ooh, it's still burning. The wrestling world, not me.
We don't need no water, let the motherfucker burn. So, Austin Aries has been accused, apparently? We'll get to that later, I guess. I'm just on WrestleZone trying to find like snippets of things that we're going to be talking about, so I don't know. We're going to read it together live and figure out what's what. So, we did. So, firstly, the Sunday show. So, firstly, Marcus, it's streamed on the wrong channel. I'm a fucking idiot. For those that don't realize this, we have two channels. We have the Wrestling Underground channel, and we have the Comic and GameCorp channel. The reasoning for that was to separate the content so that one was distinctly wrestling, and the other one was more nerdy. So I forgot to change over from the Comic and GameCorp because that's what I use Saturday, and it streamed on that one. So I was like, oh, okay, so I guess no YouTube video. Fuck it. And then Monday came around. I got inundated with so much work, and I ended up just kind of like losing some of the desire because it was so fucking hot, and I don't have air conditioning. So, it was like 88, but like the humidity made it about 101, and I was just like fucking raw dogging it the entire day. Like, oh, this is the worst. So I hardly got anything done but what I was supposed to do. So today I was doing all the shows, and I was looking through, what we talked about. I'm like, all this shit is outdated now. I can't post this fucking show. We'd look like idiots. So the Sunday show got scrapped because of, we'll say, swamp-ass laziness. So we're going to try to, keep everyone abreast with everything that's going on. So firstly, let's kind of get into the Marty Scurll of it all. We talked briefly on Sunday about it, mostly because we weren't really sure what was going on. We couldn't find anything. It was kind of all up in the air. I was looking through Twitter, couldn't find anything. I was looking for anything or anyone to verify what we were reading the day before, like the days before, I should say. And then lo and behold, fucking after we get off the air, I see someone tweeting about their entire experience with Joey Ryan and not Joey Ryan, with Marty Scurll, and how it was super fucking gross. And I'm like, all right, this is at least something. So basically, what happened was, the stuff. Ours doesn't even post anything about it yet. That's a little disappointing. You guys are better than that. So basically, the story goes that this young woman's 16 years old, drinking alcohol. This is all in the UK. I don't know what the legal drinking age in the UK is. I think it's 18. So like that was already kind of fucked. Then we had her explaining that when she was drunk, he was kind of maybe not badgering her, but she was definitely not in the right frame of mind. Her friend tries to stop her. Basically, she doesn't. The girl in question, still 16, goes with Marty Scurll and engages in some possibly consensual relations. And basically, that was someone went looking for her and pulled her away from him before things could even go further. And Scurll posted, he posted an apology, I guess. But to be clear, this isn't the first allegation I read about Marty Scurll since this whole thing started back on like Wednesday. Several others have come up. I'm going to be very mindful this time around, unlike Sunday, and not list all of the allegations because I don't want to get the sued. But let's just say that all of them seem to have a theme. And if the possible solutions were hotels, under 18, and drunk, wouldn't be far off. So if those are true, it adds even more just disgustingness to Mr. Skrull. If they're not, then fair. But Marty's copping to this one, so I gotta think that there's more to it. So basically, the story goes that she was 16 at an IPW show in 2015. She was intoxicated. She performed oral on him, but before he could get inside, in another area of her friend came and told Skrull to leave. Clearly, this was not a situation Skrull should have been involved with. Skrull didn't show up for his match the next day. Everyone there knew that they had kind of gotten together, so it was circulating that she was a bit of an easy individual, but not the part where he assaulted a drunk child. So Skrull replied with, "I am aware that a young Marcus, can you taste the condensation? I'm sorry, the condemnation. I'm sorry, the condescending. There it is. Tone of this. I am aware that a young woman has bravely came forward with her account of sexual abuse by some members of the wrestling community in the UK 5 years ago, a community I was a part of." Yeah, Marty, we know. Although I truly believe that our encounter that evening was consensual, a drunk 16-year-old. Okay. And the fact that the encounter was legal, again, drunk 16-year-old. Legal? No. Because, again, drinking age in the UK, I believe, is 18. So it's not illegal. Is almost not the point, he goes on to say, because it's not the point that it was illegal. I understand that she now views our encounter as part of a bigger problem with the wrestling community. She views it mostly as a problem with you, but sure, let's narrow it down. What concerns me at this moment is that from what I've been reading, she's a fan of wrestling and has made me feel excuse me, let me reread that. She is a fan of wrestling and was made to feel unsafe within that community. This is not acceptable. I also understand that people have been attacking her on social media, and I implore you to please stop. She has a right to her voice, and it is our responsibility to listen. There are, Marcus, I'm sure you're aware of some of these individuals in the community that we are involved with. There are wrestling accounts, not necessarily wrestlers, maybe bookers, photographers, commentators, writers, that carry significant weight in the wrestling community. One of which is the guy that runs Cage Match, which is the IMDb of pro wrestling, at least the good one, because the other one, the Internet Wrestling Database, is completely incomplete, like a Backstreet Boys song. Incomplete. So the owner of Cage Match is like, your fucking apology sucked. And I was like, all right, let's see what else everyone else thought. And like all the big kind of like, I like to call them the underground voices of wrestling. They're like, Marty Scurll's trash. Marcus, you and I don't always like to follow the trend of the majority. I, for one, think this apology was expertly crafted, but I can smell the please don't look further. Please let this be all on this apology. What was your takeaway?
I'm going back and what you said. It never sounded like it. Almost came off like he was a third party that was there but didn't see nothing.
Listen, Marcus, I'm Marty Scurll, and yes, my penis and her did have an encounter. I was not involved with it though.
Yeah, that's what it's coming off like. 'Cause he's like he's making sure not to discredit her, but he's damn sure not putting anything in his corner. And because of that, it's coming off like you said. It's like he's a condescending prick, and I get trying to expertly craft this stuff, but at this point, the way this stuff is going, if you're not gonna, it's not gonna. The fact of the matter is, it's not really gonna be good either way. If you cop to it, you're still trash, and if you don't, you're trash. But coming out like this really, like, doesn't help the situation because again, it's like he's talking about it like he's like the out of body experience. Like no, like I'm Skrull Dose. That was Skrull 1. And really, what happened to the young lady? This industry needs to be cleaned up, such and such, and people like Skrull 1 need to be out of it.
So we're basically saying that Marty Scurll is from the mirror universe, like in Star Trek, where Marty Scurll, singular, uno, was the evil Marty Scurll, and now Marty Scurll Dose is the good Marty Scurll. I'm on board. I think that makes sense. It's completely illogical, completely fabricated, and totally made up, kind of like Marty's interpretation of the events.
Exactly.
Allegedly.
That's not us. Yeah, allegedly, and that's not us trying to make light of it at all. It's just like the way that comes off. Because, like I said, I'm going back listening to you. Not once did he ever bring up him in the situation, except the fact that the what she's saying is aimed at him. So, like either he, I mean, I would imagine he might have had help crafting that, but that's just a complete cop out. If you was go for all that, you might well just stay silent. Like,
So let me reread this again, and I want you to see if you can spot two words that are never said. I am aware that a young woman has bravely come forward with her account of sexual abuse by some members of the wrestling community in the UK 5 years ago, a community I was a part of. Although I truly believe that our encounter was that evening was consensual, and the fact that the encounter was legal is almost not the point. I understand that she now views the encounter as part of a bigger problem within the wrestling community. What concerns me at this moment is that from what I've been reading, she's a fan of wrestling and was made to feel unsafe within that community. This is not acceptable. I also understand that people have been attacking her on social media, and I implore you to please stop. She has a right to her voice, and it is our responsibility to listen. Marcus, you see two words that aren't said or written? Because I see two words that aren't written.
I'm sorry.
Oh, I always set them up, and it rarely ever works. We got it this time. We're like Darius Miles and Quentin Richardson. We're terrible at the alley-oop, but when we get it, it's only mildly impressive.
It's weird. It's almost like he comes off speaking like he's her lawyer and he's trying not to have a personal attachment.
Right?
It's very like he goes off into like the wrestling community and like people are coming after her. That's wrong. She's clearly a fan. What the freak does any of this have to do? Well, what happened? You're throwing, you're trying to, they're like, oh my God, is something happening over there? Well, he's just trying to put something back. It's like I said, if you was gonna say all that, you might as well not say nothing at all, because that very much does come off like a condescending a-hole.
Now, see, here's the thing, and you are, like, Marcus, I feel like the proud papa, and I buried, like, a big gold bar, and I gave you, like, all the tools to find it, and you threw all the tools out, and you're like, fuck that noise, and then you start digging in the right spot to find the gold. I'm like, oh, it's my boy. You're my boy, Blue. Because you're not wrong. This is a craftily worded response from a lawyer. And as a lawyer, the one thing that you tell a client when you're trying to deny responsibility is to never take responsibility for anything that you feel that could be damaging to your reputation. Saying certain phrases or words implies that you are, in fact, guilty, or that you might be implied to be guilty. Words like, I'm sorry, are a phrase that takes ownership and responsibility of actions. Marty Scurll never said that because he's being advised by his lawyer not to, because Scurll knows that there is more to this story. I wanted to so believe that Scurll may have been one of the several individuals that were targeted for vendettas or were falsely accused. I don't know if you know who this is, Jarvis Cottonbelly. Have you ever heard of this guy?
No.
He's a masked wrestler. He usually works with Shikara. He wears a very kind of generic yellow mask, and it kind of the mask has like a monocle design over one eye, and he comes out with a bowler hat and like a cane, and he's always tweeting out really positive stuff because he's an actual individual who has depression, so he feels like he wants to flood his own timeline with positivity so people who are like him can have a place to go and feel better. He's a good guy, but apparently someone was making some allegations against him, but it turns out that someone had catfished Cottonbelly, his real-life alter ego, his real-life persona, and was using that to try to lure women. And that, I don't want to say that was a false allegation, but it was definitely a situation where the facts didn't represent who was being accused. And I don't want to say I hoped for Scurll, because that would imply that I have more of an attachment to Scurll than anyone else. I hope for all these to either be a misunderstanding or a thing that can be worked out, because you're not just dealing with, everyone wants to point out, well, these guys' careers. Sure, I get that. And I'm pretty, open to the idea of innocent till guilty and, all that goodness, because I believe when the judicial system is used as it's supposed to be, it's very effective. And I believe that there are things that need to be changed about it, but I do believe that people should be given their day in court. So I don't ever want these stories to be true, not just for that reason, but also because I hope that the pain that these individuals who are speaking out can be alleviated with a conversation. But that's not often possible. And then when you look at the allegations against Joey Ryan, you can't help but believe it, because why would so many hate you? Like, really, Joey? Well, we'll get there. So, like, with Skrull, there's a part of me that was hoping that some of this may have been fluffed up by certain accounts to try to get views, clicks, what have you, because that's how I hope for all of these. But I don't disbelieve the accusations. So I'm sitting here reading this, and I'm thinking to myself, if I'm a lawyer, and I was, on my way to law school, and I sat down with a client, and I said to myself, I need to make sure you don't get yourself in any more trouble. But the part of the problem is you need to make a statement because people are coming for you, and we need to protect the brand, and we need to protect you legally, so we need to put out a statement, but we can't have you accept culpability for anything because that would imply that you did something wrong. So here we are. Skrull's perfectly worded message was from a lawyer, I guarantee you. And it was written in a way to avoid having to take ownership or responsibility of anything he did, because let's be honest, if you sleep with a drunk woman in general, that's pretty skeezy. If you drink with a 16-year-old, I'm sorry, if you fuck a 16-year-old, that's pretty skeezy. But if you drink, get a 16-year-old drunk, that's even skeezier.
Yeah, I mean, the way things are being perceived now, and rightfully so, because I mean that kind of is the thing. Once alcohol gets involved, this perception of consent pretty much goes out the window, because it's a judgment impaler by nature.
Mm-hmm. It's a toxin. So, it's literally a toxin. That's why people get drunk, because you are ingesting a toxic a solution into your system, and your body is attempting to cleanse it. That's why you get drunk. Your body is actively trying to rid it from your system.
Yeah, so, like you said, and this is, we don't want none of these allegations, specifically some of the severities of them, to be true, but there's a lot of smoke to these fires, man, and everybody can't be lying. And then considering the fact that we got people, like, copping, like, the half-truths, like, okay, I did this, but not this. And it's like, it's just not looking good for a lot of people. There are some people who have vehemently come out and 100% denied, like, everything. And a lot of times, depending on the energy that you come with, specifically, like, soon right after, sometimes that has more level of believability than others. Because they are, look, and some of these situations could be people lying. It could be people trying to throw people in the fire. It could be people that's mad at somebody who had a negative interaction and wants to get a level of measure of revenge to throw somebody in the fire while everything's kind of ablaze right now. And if that is the case, they need to be put to the fire themselves, hopefully. But there also are cases, and we're probably going to get to him later, where, there are some people that really are just trying to switch things around because, like, they're holding some type of vendetta. Like, we're going to get to... I'm just kind of glad he came out. We're going to get to Keith Lee eventually.
Yeah.
But I just drop that because there's very much easily I guess, an ongoing perception that this is kind of one-sided when it comes to gender, and that's not always the case. So, that predatory behavior can come from both sides, and it doesn't always look like how some of these stores are going in terms of, like, who started. Like, a lot of this predatory behavior can come from, I wanted something from you, didn't get it, let me put you in this predicament now. So.
And you're not wrong. I don't know if there's more to the Keith Lee story other than what I saw on his Twitter account. Is there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, no.
Just
okay. Which was kind of, eye-opening in itself. And really scary when you kind of you get to that last part. You're like, wow. Because I would imagine he's not been small since he was small. You get what I'm saying? So that's scary, man.
So I played football with two guys. Shane Taylor would know them. Their names were the Kalnickies. They are 6'2" and 6'4", respectively. At their lightest, I think they were 280. Their mother was 4'10" and about 150 pounds. We don't know how it happened. We don't know how. Like, she even told us, like, they were born big.
Is one of them named Little Joe or something like that?
No, they didn't have any Nickies. Nicknames. The Kalnickies were pretty much like the last name Kalnicki is already kind of a great nickname. Their nicknames were actually just Cal. Big and Little Cal, actually. But it's not the same thing as like Little Joe or something like that. That would have been funny. Yeah, let's move on. Dave Chris stuff, I'm sure there's going to be more about that. Like once these floodgates open, like it's hard to pull back. So Impact did the right thing. Let's see if we can get all this stuff in one. We're going to talk about you. So we're going to put you here. And I come to you eventually. Oh, my apologies to WrestleZone. There was a Marty Scurll post. I just forgot that I opened it. My bad. Let's see. Here we go. This is the one I want. So, we'll put you on deck, my friend. So, Impact has officially announced the firings of Joey Ryan, Dave Christ, and suspension of Michael Elgin. So, this was one of those things that I was really kind of... Oh, Marcus, I had concerns. Marcus, I swear to God, I was so concerned that Impact was going to either ignore the allegations, defend the allegations, or like do like a half thing where like they suspend everyone for a few weeks or some nonsense like that. And I was so utterly in fear that they would ruin their entire reputation. And I was just gobsmacked for like the longest time. Like, they're not going to do anything. They're not going to do anything. Turns out last night, press release gets announced that they have terminated the contracts of Joey Ryan and Dave Christ. Joey Ryan is edited out of all future Impact episodes henceforth. I don't know. I talked to Bill Pritchard of WrestleZone, and he said that he couldn't confirm if anyone else was being scrubbed. So I don't know if Dave Christ or Michael Elgin are getting scrubbed as well. We didn't see Michael Elgin this week, at least that I'm aware of, because I was finishing up some work while I was watching Impact. So I didn't see every segment, at least not that I'm aware of. I may have seen them all, but I think I may have missed one or two. But I didn't see any Elgin this week. I didn't see any Dave Christ. I didn't see any Jake Christ, which, I mean, doesn't surprise me because Jake Christ is with Joey Ryan in storyline, so it makes sense that you wouldn't see them. I do hope cancel culture as a stable doesn't go anywhere. No one named Jake Christ for anything. So I would hope that they would kind of just let the group stay with Jake and RVD and Katie Forbes and go from there. I seem to have momentarily lost Marcus. Let's see if I can't bring him back. I'm going to mute that end of the show, however, so I don't have to worry about hearing the show beep in my ear. So my hope with everything in regards to cancel culture is that they keep going and find a new way to represent it, because it was a really great angle for the longest time.
What happened there?
It's all right, buddy. I brought you back. I'm like Aquaman. I brought you back from the deep. I don't remember who you say, but yeah, I'm that guy. I saved you from being that guy. So my hope, Marcus, is that cancel culture does find a way to come back with Jake Christ and Rob Van Dam and Katie Forbes in light of everything, because I don't want them to suffer creatively because Joey Ryan's the biggest creep in the fucking world. And I kind of want to take a victory lap on this one. You mind if I take a victory lap?
Do your thing, man.
So about 3 years ago, I started to hear, that Joey Ryan was being pretty fucking skeezy. Now, unfortunately, I'm on the 90-day deletes on the tweets, mostly because I tweet a lot of links. And if you go through my Twitter profiles and you see all these links dating back years, it's kind of like, why? It's spam heavy, man. So I'm on the 90-day delete, so you won't be able to go back and verify this. But Marcus was there. I know he was there because I'm like, Marcus, you seeing this shit? And he's like, psh. He said more than psh. But just go with the story, man. um, so I started tweeting out like all these things that I was finding out. You know, Joey Ryan literally tweeted out, "I'm not a good person." And like, there's all these tweets that were out there, and I'm like, Joey Ryan, I'm tweeting at all kinds of of companies and shit, and I'm like, this dude is a fucking scumbag. And they're like, no, you don't know him. I think TJP came at me. He's like, you don't know him. I don't. Maybe it wasn't TJP. It was another California wrestler, and he's like, you don't know him. Like, this isn't it. I don't want to name him, but we've done some work with him before. He's on a different kind of grouping of podcasts. He's also kind of a wrestling manager. I'm not going to name names, but Marcus, I think you know who I'm referring to. If you don't, I'll text it to you on Skype. You know, he came at me. He's like, you know, he's one of my best friends. He would never do this shit. I'm like, dude, I'm telling you what I'm hearing. I'm telling you what he said himself. And he's like, oh, well, you need to understand that he's got issues and he's depressed and all this, yada, yada, yada. And I'm like, he's a fucking creep. Look at his gimmick. Well, it's just a gimmick. It's not a fucking gimmick. Sorry, bro. Like, who is it? Corey Graves' brother. He wrestles in Mexico. Do you know Corey Graves' brother's wrestling name?
No, I didn't even know he had a brother.
Yeah, I think it's like Sam Adonis or something like that. Well, he came out. He wrestled in AAA, I think, for a little while, and he was doing like this very pro Trump, very pro build the wall gimmick, and it turned out he's kind of like a giant douchebag in real life. I'm like, are you fucking surprised? People don't embrace gimmicks that aren't true. Like, Jacob Hammerstone doesn't pretend to be a dude who's jacked. He is a dude who's jacked. You know, Rob Van Dam doesn't pretend to be a chilled out, you know, pothead who does martial arts. He literally is a chilled out pothead who does martial arts. Katie Forbes doesn't pretend to be a sex object. She got implants and butt lifts and wears skimpy clothes because she likes to show off. Like, these aren't gimmicks. These are who they are. You think Brock Lesnar is a dude who's really overly friendly backstage and loves putting over the little guy? No, he's a dick. So, like, yeah, these dudes are legitimately just who they are. It's not a surprise to find out that they're living their gimmick, yo. So when all these things with Joey Ryan came out, I'm like, y'all, I've been saying this for years. Where have you been? And then to find out he's been accused of 16, 18, I think Meltzer said, 18 accusations against him. I would not be surprised if we find out that Joey Ryan is no longer with us in a few days, because I don't know how this dude comes back from this, and I don't think he can. This is a dude who needs to go to jail, frankly.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because they always say when they talk about comedians, they talk about how they're really kind of like depressed people behind the scenes because of I guess the way in which they can look at the world and then turn it into comedy. But I think in a way a lot can be said about some of these wrestlers too, man. A lot of these guys, come from a lot of dark places, and wrestling is kind of their outlet in a lot of ways. But mentally and emotionally, a lot of these guys do come from dark spaces, man. And then even though we're no longer in the heavy volume of it, there are like recreational drugs and stuff that does get involved behind the scenes, sometimes in a way that allows them to go over or under the radar, if you will, in terms of being tested and whatnot. And then there are just people who just effed up mentally, like the guy from AEW.
Jimmy Havoc or Justin
Yeah,
Roberts?
yeah, I know you're not gonna get the full stamp AEW until you get Roberts. Chad sticking to that.
Nope.
But yeah, Havoc, seems to have some issues even outside of that alcohol thing, which could have a lot to do with it, obviously. But you tend to go to alcohol when you're trying to get away from something. So this guy might just be severely depraved in a lot of ways, and obviously executed a lot of this behavior And yeah, like you said, it's not always a stretch between who these guys are on TV and then who what they are behind the scenes. A lot of times, it's kind of coming off that way, like they all actually toned back a little bit on TV.
You're not wrong.
So yeah, like you said, and I don't know if he's put anything. I was like, I don't follow Joe Ryan. He's never rubbed me the right way, for whatever reason. I'm guessing now. I guess that's the hindsight. I was kind of in the right ballpark, but yeah, I mean, I always looked at it like it, and I hate using this word because it's being bastardized like so many other things in the culture right now. Like to me, he was problematic when they signed him.
Yeah.
It was a problematic signing, and then it just never. Again, it was always a cringe-worthy. This is the part I skip of the show every week for me. So, like I said, I put up with Elgin because I knew at least I was gonna get some good action, and he even started being good on the mic. But again, problematic as well. So, and then you get the revelation with Chris, and yeah, I mean they had to do something. They had to. Impact is not the organization that could be afford to be taking steps backwards after all the trials and tribulations to get some forward momentum. So at least they're glad they did that.
It's one thing to kind of take your time with something, to sush things out. It's another to kind of go radio silent. And frankly, I find the handling from AEW to be wholly disgusting. First and foremost, I said this on Sunday's show, and I'll repeat it. You don't need cause to fire someone who's accused of sexual assault. You don't need anything more than that. There's a moralities clause in most of these contracts. Jimmy Havoc's not being sent to rehab so they can fire him. He's being sent to quote-unquote rehab so AEW can say he got better and they can bring him back. Because they could just fire him outright for the accusation of sexual assault. And that's the thing. Like, people are always like, well, they can't fire him because that's an alcoholic. No, actually, no, he can, because you can't use that defense as an alcoholic when you're looking at a felony. If you're a company with a morality clause, you can outright fire anyone for any reason, whether or not they have alcoholism or drug addicts or what have you. They can just fire them. They're opting not to, which shows me that they're more concerned about bringing him back than they are firing him. And let's play devil's advocate. Let's just play devil's advocate. They're footing the bill for his alcohol recovery. They're sending him to rehab 28 days, 60 days, whatever it is, 90 days. And everyone's like, well, they don't want to get sued. Listen, if I found out that one of my employees, alcoholic or not, was being accused of sexual assault, rape, abusing a girlfriend, I would fucking want him to sue me. I would love to drag that asshole in front of a court and go, I fired him because he beat his girlfriend. You want him to get money? You want to give a woman beater money? Do you really want to be that Jerry? Oh, I don't think you want to be that Jerry. He wouldn't get a dime.
Is there a possibility, real quick, that they tried to, I guess, quote unquote, try to do their own little personal investigation?
Oh, I would put money on it. Cody has proven, if anything, during this thing, that he's not taking it seriously. I wouldn't be surprised if he's like, let's just hire a PI and then see if we can't gloss things over. I wouldn't be surprised. I'm not saying he did. I'm not saying I know the guy. I'm just saying Cody Rhodes' most infamous AEW comment is, I believe in nepotism. He believes in hiring his friends. And if he's going to hire his friends, he's going to protect his friends. I have lost all respect for Cody. I still think he's a marvelous performer. I still think he's an amazing pro wrestler who can cut amazing fucking promos. But I see him for what he really is. I would put money on the table today that says in the next 5 to 10 years, someone goes, Cody's been an alcoholic, or Cody's been a drug addict, or Cody has had mental issues since AEW started, or even beforehand. That Cody's been off the rails. That Cody is he doesn't have a fucking clue what's going on, or that Cody doesn't understand the severity of certain situations. He's striking me as someone who has more going on in his brain than anyone that we could ever possibly know, and I don't know what it is. But when you're sitting there cracking jokes as women accuse your roster of violating them as children, I wouldn't be so fucking impressed with Brian Cage's body. I would be pretty fucking aggravated to find out that someone I gave money to, that someone I gave time to, that someone I gave the ability to make money to was abusing people on my fucking dime, and I would be fucking livid. Now, if that's the case, and Cody was like, I can't say anything, and he went radio silent for 3 days until he finally put out a statement through AEW because he was working with his lawyers, fair play. I wouldn't have an issue with that. The day it was doing it, like what was it, Friday when it all broke? He was fucking tweeting at Brian Cage like, oh, he's got big muscles or whatever, some dumb shit. Saturday, fucking Juneteenth, Brandy's like, happy Juneteenth. And listen, I want that to be a holiday. I think ending slavery is a pretty goddamn cool reason to have a goddamn holiday. But Juneteenth was also the day that started. So what was that, Thursday? Let's double check. Friday. I was right. It was Friday. So I'm sitting there, and I'm looking at Brandi, and she's like, happy Juneteenth. Oh, and look here's a bikini photo. I'm like, you're posting sexualized photos of yourself the same day women are posting about being abused in the wrestling industry. Where is the fucking logic? Like, Vince McMahon is tone deaf to the point where he's Beethoven deaf. And even he's not that fucking tone deaf. If she's like the executive brand officer, I think, the EBO, and you have 4 fucking vice presidents, and they were all tweeting shit throughout this entire ordeal, and none of them said anything until like 3 days out. Scum. Brandi, you're scum. I hope you hear this because you're scum. Fucking tweeting out bikini photos as women that you've worked with are tweeting about how they were being abused in the industry. Who the fuck raised you? I hope Dusty Rhodes is rolling over in his fucking grave because what a disaster of a child his son has become.
It's interesting. Like I almost want to, well, not really, because I might literally throw up. But it will be interesting to be a fly on the wall in some of these. I would imagine these immediate meetings or these immediate Zoom calls because of COVID, to see what exactly is being said that we can't hear because you've seen the sentiment online. I've seen it as well. A lot of people are like, oh my God, cancel culture has to stop. You can't, chastise, suspend, and/or file somebody for something that they did before you hired them, type of deal. And what if this person isn't doing, in that mindset of doing the stuff anymore? And I think in that regard, it's really ignorant because you're kind of completely glossing over what this whole thing was about in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
But again, it's like what we've seen with a lot of these companies kind of getting on lives with Black Lives Matter. It's in now to kind of just rid yourself of these PR problems because you can't necessarily navigate the backlash. So I do wonder how many people are genuinely firing people, as opposed to, we got to just get over there. Eventually, we'll get back to you, but we don't need this PR thing right now. Like, I know you're not this person. They're almost in the Trump thing. You've not raped for some time. You've not raped. That whole deal.
We're going to have a million fans listening to this show.
Exactly. And
I wish.
Again, not to make light, but I would imagine that there are a lot of people who, again, like we said on the last show, like if that's your past, you don't live there anymore, then this really shouldn't be a thing. But because, again, we can't navigate the level of backlash that will come if we keep you on, we kind of got to let you go. But again, man, you did that when you was old. I did stupid stuff when I was old, so my stuff's not going to come out because, whatever reason. And, I do wonder how many people are kind of just more so pissed and doing this for PR as opposed to genuinely, because again, you got a lot of half measures being taken despite what a lot of times again, I think the most polarizing things is a lot of, and what I hope to see more of is a lot of these guys' co-workers coming out, because I think that's where the real gavel comes down there. Like we saw some stuff with Pete Dunne, and like you said, some people came out to Marty Scroll, and even some people have talked about, I think, the behavior of Dave Chris before some of this stuff came out. It's like a lot of this stuff is far more telling than even some of these allegations.
Yeah, and the guy who outed Jim Cornette has been saying, I've really just kind of been listening to what he's been saying. He's like, people have been coming at me for, because apparently he's been doing this, the outing of guys in the industry for a while. And he's pissed at all the people complimenting him because he's like, he's always hearing things about like, well, I've been hearing about this for years, so I'm really glad that you finally, said something. And he's like, you're a fucking coward. Don't thank me. I don't like you. I think you're scum. So that dude's really been, I think, an impressive force just watching what he's doing and just all the things that he's trying to accomplish. And, it's one of those things that, looking at Cody and Brandi specifically and AEW, their lack of awareness is what angers me. And I always thought that AEW was being faux progressive anyway. Yeah, you got Sonny Kiss on your roster, who's very effeminate, and he's a gay black male. So you're checking off a lot of the minority boxes on that one. But he's on the undercard, on the pre-show, on the dark matches. No one really ever sees him. He's not really in the storyline. Like, now I guess they're putting him with Joey Janela in a tag team, but who the fuck cares about Joey Janela anymore? His stock has plummeted in AEW as well. So it's like, oh, cool, a jobber tag team, adorable. So I really don't think they're as progressive as people want them to be. I think it's a nice badge of honor. They can hang it. Hey, Tony Khan's our owner. He's a minority owner. A minority owner. A minority majority owner. That's how you say it. So like, there's a lot of faux-ness going on in that company, and just case in point. So June 19th, all this broke down. Brandi Rhodes tweets out, "Happy Juneteenth." God, I cannot pronounce that word correctly when I'm fired up. Then she retweets a photo of herself, an illustrated photo of herself. Then on June 20th, "Happy Saturday. What are you up to today?" And then a photo of her lying on a bed. Brandi. Really not reading the room. Then we get a retweet from Dustin Rhodes. "How does she keep getting on these graphics?" Talking about Allie. Then we go into, June 21st, "Happy Father's Day" to her father. I don't have a problem with that one. Not entirely. I like my dad. He's a good dude. Then we get a retweet on June 21st. And then we get a photo of her and Cody at a vineyard. So she's drinking when she's in the middle of a apocalyptic measurement in wrestling. Then finally, at the end of June 21st, right before Monday morning, she tweets out 5 comments, none of which acknowledge anything that's going on in her own company. "I'm seeing so many broken hearts across this platform. Oh, Arya Brandi, you're such a fucking saint. Sometimes we get lost in hashtags and mentions on this app, but the reality is we have no idea what happens outside of this app." The grammar in me is like, you don't repeat words in the fucking sentence, but whatever, we'll go on. "We can't see the work that goes on behind the scenes and emotion behind it all." Yes, we can. We absolutely can. It's called social media. We see it all the time. "This may be a surprise to some." Here it comes, Marcus. Here it comes. "But I've had to speak out twice." Oh, really? Oh, okay, let's read. "At the end of my skating career and at the beginning of my wrestling career, it is not easy, and it's not something I am going to relive for anyone else's gain right now. I spoke out behind closed doors in 2 extreme, intimidating settings. Both times I was surprised at the results. Neither was what I expected, as in both accounts I was not in the position of power, but they were handled appropriately. My heart goes out to anyone that found their courage to stand this weakness." Now, to be clear, I don't doubt this has happened to her. I don't disbelieve her. But this ain't about her right now, considering Justin Roberts was accused of soliciting photos from a minor across state lines. Jimmy Havoc beat the hell out of his girlfriend. Brandi, I respect that you went through something. I feel for you. But you're a boss now. You're supposed to be making comments and pointing out what you're doing to make sure that your employees are held responsible for the actions that they have committed. Continuing on. "I have had front row seats to some ugly things in my lifetime." Marcus, she's a hero. "I am committed to doing everything that I personally can to protect others. That's why I spoke out. I couldn't imagine if what happens to me happens to someone else." It did. Holy shit. And then finally, "And I didn't speak up when I should have. I'm so glad that I did and turned it over to capable hands. I'm a survivor. You're a survivor, and you've helped others survive. Allies aren't enemies. These are my personal views and feelings and should be regarded as such." Marcus, did you read the names Jimmy Havoc or Justin Roberts in any of her comments?
No, it was a feel good statement.
Yep. Now listen, if this is Io Shirai, wait, is she in AW or WWE? She's in WWE. Who's
Yeah,
the woman who's the current champion? What's her name?
yeah. In NXT, it's Io Shirai. You talking about Oscar?
No, I'm talking about AEW. Who's the women's champion in AEW?
Oh, say Sakamura, but that's not her name.
I should watch AEW more, just because like this woman is extremely talented, and I don't mean to not know her name.
No,
AEW.
it's Hikaru Shida.
I knew it
Hikaru.
was, yeah, Sheeta. If Sheeta said something like this, okay, cool. You know, if Ali said something like this, okay. You know, Nyla Rose. Who's the new talent? Swole isn't she part of the brand now?
Yeah.
If like Swole said it, you know, if any number of other women said that exact set of words, I'd be fine with it. You're a contracted talent. You aren't the one who's supposed to be putting out statements in regards to how your company is handling something. The bosses are, and they have like 1,000 of them. Kenny, Nick, Matt, Cody, Brandi, Tony, and none. I don't follow the Bucks anymore, mostly because they block me. When you tweet somebody enough times, you can't sell. They're gonna block you. So I don't know if they've said anything, but looking at Kenny's, looking at Cody's and Brandy's and Tony's timelines, they've said nothing. Two of them are executive vice presidents. Brandy's the chief brand officer, and fucking Tony Khan's the owner, CEO. And they all said diddly shit. Just Jimmy Havoc's getting help.
Yeah, and it's funny too because I don't really follow none of them that really know any of their views or anything when this everything kicked off after George Floyd. But I do, and I think we talked about this, and I thought it was insightful at the time, but I think it may speak to a lot of things when it comes to Cody's potential view on things. He talked about like certain issues. Obviously, he's in a racial marriage, and I remember, I guess he talked about a conversation he was having with Brandon, and he was like, "I don't see color," and I think she replied to him, which I thought, like I said, was poignant. Like, if you don't see color, then you don't see my experience.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was very telling in terms of the place he may have been in terms of his level of ignorance to certain things. Now I don't know how much of it is willful, just legitimate ignorance because he obviously grew up different and just hadn't had the experience. But I would like to think that as somebody that's been in that relationship for as long as he has, I would hope have had conversations with his wife to paint a picture of things that he would that she would have gone through or would paint a better picture of the perceptions that they've had from other people when they're out in public, when they've got negative stares and whispers or what have you, just for being together. On top of him being the leader of the company, having people on there like a Sonny Kiss, um, who is a unique one, who is in between, a certain amount of struggle in terms of what it is to like be, a black man and then a black gay man, or however he identifies. I don't know for sure, but that dichotomy, and then you look at the Nyla Roses, and then women on the roster. I would hope that he would kind of want to sit down after having that comment by Brandy about us seeing her experience of wanting to sit down with them and potentially get their perception of things going on, specifically between Black Lives Matter and things that are going on right now. But it does seem like he has a certain level of ignorance around these lot of things. Like he almost has to go through them to kind of get to the other side of a eureka moment, which sucks because that's kind of why we're in the situation now, looking at so many of these situations going on, whether it be these murders or a lot of these accusation cases. And that doesn't bode well when you're supposed to be this grand leader of this diverse group of people and you don't make it a point to try to relate. Instead, you kind of just try to do this blanket all statement that doesn't speak to these people's experience, and it kind of makes you look real, like I said, ignorant. And I just hope that if that is the case, that he smartens up because that's only going to hurt his company in the long run.
I mean, Nailed it. Like, he nailed it. He does have a lot of arrogance to him because he does not acknowledge different experiences. And I want to be very clear, I'm not picking on Cody and Brandi and Kenny and the Bucks because they're in AEW. I don't care that Chris Jericho didn't say anything. I don't care that Jon Moxley didn't say anything. I don't care because they're not supposed to. They're not the bosses. They're not the EVPs. They're not the one that put this thing together. They are. I'm not sitting here saying Gail Kim needs to speak out or Tessa Blanchard needs to speak out. You know, I was going to make a joke about Tessa, but it's not the place. I'm not sitting here saying that, Ken Shamrock needs to speak out or Moose needs to speak out, although Moose does speak out quite a bit about a lot of things, and sometimes Moose just needs to shut up. Just come on, buddy. You're making it harder on yourself. You don't always got to be the bully from high school. Although I do like Moose, but sometimes he does pick on people on Twitter, but that's neither here nor there. I look at Cody, and you're right. The whole Brandi, I don't see color thing. Like, listen, I said that when I was 15 because I thought it meant that I was, like, open and accepting to everyone. I didn't say it when I was in my late 20s, right? Like, come on. Come on, kid. And it also speaks to Cody's arrogance. And you can look at just a few moments in Cody's career so far with AEW and really just take note the goal he has and how little he actually cares about those around him. He says he's not going to, make it a thing with WWE and like he wants AEW to be its own thing. Then he puts a fucking throne on his stage that he breaks with a sledgehammer. Okay, that was subtle. I popped in the moment, but let's be honest. If we're going to paint a picture, connect the dots, it tells a pretty important story. Then you see that, he brings his dog to the ring. That doesn't sound like a bad thing, but he brings his dog to the ring with fireworks. Marcus, have you ever owned a dog?
Yeah.
So then you would know that come 4th of July, it's the dog's least favorite day.
Whining like hell, man.
Right? All the dogs I've ever had, or all the dogs I've ever been around, and all the dogs that I helped foster or helped my aunt with, or helped out in any way, shape, or form, always hated fireworks. Some more than others, but they were not a fan because they don't know what the fuck it is. It's loud and scary. So what's the good idea that Cody has? We're gonna bring my dog down to the ring and then shoot off a bunch of fireworks right in its fucking ear. Oh, I'm such a goddamn genius. Good job, Cody. Someone either said that's a bad idea or you just didn't care.
And that's on top of a rapid fan base or a rapid arena going on.
Plus, you have all the hustle and bustle, all these strange smells. Like a wrestling arena is not the place for a dog. I don't give a damn if Davey Boy brought his fucking bulldog to the ring. I don't care if Rene Dupree brought Fifi to the ring or if Tori Wilson had the little fucking, whatever that little fucking gremlin was she owned. You don't bring dogs to a ring. It's just a bad idea. Dogs are very skittish animals. Like fuck off. Then you have the whole, my wife told me not to get a face tattoo or a neck tattoo, but I don't really care what she thinks, so I got it anyway story. Oh, that made him sound such a such a dick. I'm going to get this stupid fucking gaudy-ass tattoo that's really stupid looking, terribly designed, and stupid looking. I'm going to get it right on my neck, even though my wife's like, I would rather you not. At least right there. And he's like, no, fuck that noise. I don't care about your opinion. And I'll listen. I know people are going to be like, well, if it was a woman. No, here's the thing. If you're in a committed relationship, I do believe you should have an opinion, as long as it's just that, about how your partner presents themselves, because they do reflect you. If you don't agree on how certain things are going, that means that you are no longer compatible and need to break up. If I'm Cody Rhodes, my wife doesn't want me to do something that much, I'm going to take her feelings into account. And I would hope that the inverse would be true as well, because that is what a healthy relationship is. So Cody gets a stupid neck tattoo that Brandi doesn't like. Okay. We're starting to see a pattern here.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like I said, I think this is, and you said the perfect quote, like not knowing. We've seen this so many times. It's all so obvious on Twitter, but specifically right now, a lot of people just really don't know how to read the room. Mm-hmm. You in those positions, like the two of them are at the top of a company like that, you really need to be able to. So to me, like in his position, this is like the perfect time to kind of sit down and have like some like round table discussions. Specifically, like if all this stuff is kind of like some newfangled, like where in the hell did all this stuff come from? Where was this business while I was in it type of deal? Mm-hmm. Like this is you to get your women's roster together, you, Kenny, the Bucks, and like sit down and ask them about their experience. Ask them, what have they gone through? Like what could they be saying that they're not, obviously, in confidence in a room, so you could, again, be able to get the temperature of some of their experience and ask them like, what have you been through, or what environments that you've been in that have been less than desirable for the perception you had of this business, and what can be done better in the current environment you're in now, which is my company, that can make it better, than clearly what we're seeing, from a lot of these accusations and whatnot. And, to me, that's only right. Then you break it down again. You look at somebody like Nyla Rose, who's had a specific amount of backlash. I'm sure Sonny Kiss has some stories, even though, he looks to always keep a, no pun intended, sunny disposition about things. But you need to sit down with these people and get inside their head, because they could, obviously, they enjoy being in your company, but it is a job. They do get a check. But just because they're, smiling, that doesn't mean that everything is all good, specifically all good in your company. And you need to know if you are doing things, even without knowing, that could be seen as detrimental, because these are times we living in. So I think that would be something wise to do. I would like to think he's doing that. Like, I think he's a guy that has good intent, but doesn't always do the things or put the people around him to tell him what things could be done to get that intent towards proper action. So,
And that's 100% exactly what he should be doing. The other thing he should be doing is staying the fuck off social media. As one of the owners, one of the not owners, but one of the figureheads in the company, it's your job to be leading the charge. Especially Cody, because he's become the face of the brand. You need to be up there putting out, and here's the thing. It should not take a company backed by a billionaire longer to release a statement on Jimmy Havoc, or still waiting on the Justin Roberts one, as it has been, considering the amount of money, resources, and personnel they have, than it does for MLW to get the accusation and fire the guy in the span of like a few hours. Like Mark James Haggerty, or whatever his name was, the ring announcer for MLW, was accused Saturday night, and before midnight Sunday morning, he was fired by MLW. And they put out a statement like, we fucking fired his ass. He's fucking gone. So there's no excuse for the way AEW is handling this. And the only people who are going to defend it are fans who are like, well, I don't want them to be perceived negatively. That's not what they're saying, but that's what they mean. All Cody needed to do is, I am not going to rush to judgment, but you have my word that I am leading an investigation to find out any and all accusations about our talent named, and when we have completed the accusation, we will let you know. That would have been enough for so many people. And I think part of the thing that I'm struggling with is so many people aren't mad about what AEW is not saying. And I think too many people, at least in the wrestling media and some of the more influential people within the community, they don't want to buck the trend. Even now, with all the things going on, they don't want to point out that, hey, they put out a vague fucking comment about Jimmy Havoc, who was accused of rape, sexual assault, and beating his girlfriend half to death. But they're going to send him to rehab and then reevaluate. Oh, what the fucking great fucking tweet, this statement. Oh, yeah, I'm so impressed. And then still have all these other things going on. Like, and things specifically, like with the AEW Twitter account, I don't mind that that's still doing its job, right? Like, you still have a product to produce, and I get that. Like, I wasn't mad about the Impact one. But Impact decided that, I think it was Sunday night that they posted their comments. And while I was infuriated that they took so long, I was even more infuriated because I thought that they were going to just not do anything. And I jumped the gun a bit on that one. I thought they were just going to fucking sweep this under the rug and just pretend it didn't happen. Oh, I was wrong. Impact stepped up and fired them. Dave, Chris, and Joey Ryan, sight unseen. Elgin suspended. And I'm still not entirely all sure what Elgin's being accused of. I know he's been accused of protecting someone who's accused of rape. And he's also being accused of sending his dick to a bunch of people via inboxes. But in regards to the severity of everyone else, I don't know if his crimes are the same, because I don't know what else is there. Like, if we're just going with what we're told, I don't think those are the same. I don't think those are the same levels of indiscretion. Like, if I punch you in the head and then blow up a town, I feel like I should be charged differently for both crimes. Both bad, but one's a bit more terrible than the other. I don't know fully what Elgin's being accused of. I just know what I've seen, and I've seen nothing of the sort of physical or sexual assault. I'm not saying those don't exist. They might. And I'm open to that possibility. I'm just saying I personally haven't read any of those. I've read that he's been a sex pest by sending his dick pics to a bunch of women unsolicited, trying to sleep with people that he's trying to hire, and covering up the, what was his name? Shane Orlando, something like that. Controversy from back in like 2015 or so. That was like that whole spiel like 2 years ago with that Malone chick who was trying to get people to hear her about Michael Elgin. Everyone's like, well, Michael Elgin's innocent. You know, he got a restraining order against her. Well, Michael Elgin doesn't look so fucking innocent now, does he? So I don't know if a suspension is enough for Elgin, but right now I'm satisfied that that's what they're doing. And as far as Dave Krish goes, apparently he was on the way out anyway, because apparently he's a big old dick backstage. And I applaud Impact for what they did. I would like to have seen it sooner, but I understand if they had to navigate certain legalese. But I'm glad that they're making changes. And they scrubbed Joey Ryan from everything, so at least there's that. So I'm happy about that. Also, his promotion, Bar Wrestling, is closed. I'm not at all disappointed about that. I thought that was a crap-ass company to begin with. It was nothing but shock and god-awful. So, I'm happy about that. So, let's go to Dave Lagana real fast, Marcus, because the Rhodes family has me heated for all the wrong reasons. So, we know that Dave Lagana was accused by a woman named Liv Savage, who accused him of sexual assault. So, Dave Lagana posted the full statement. I'm going to jump to the more relevant parts of this because this seems to be really long. Last week, Liz Savage accused me via Twitter posts of sexually assaulting her a decade ago. Liz and I were friends for a total of about 5 to 7 years before and after alleged assault. Oh, God, you don't even know how long you were friends with someone? Uh-oh, that's not good. We met first at a wrestling show sometime between 06 and 08. How are you not... Okay. She was introduced to me as an independent wrestler. I take Liz's allegations seriously. The first time I became aware of her allegations was last week when she made them public. I take them so seriously that I voluntarily stepped down from my position as vice president of Lighting One Inc. and its company, the National Wrestling Alliance. After learning of her allegations, I did so because they predate this position, and I did not want to involve the men and women of the National Wrestling Alliance during this time. Oh, Dave, you saint. I valued my friendship with Liz. I'm sorry that she feels that I somehow wronged her. However, the incident she described did not happen. Liz is correct that she lived with me and a female roommate from mid-August 2010 until October 1st, 2010. He remembered those dates, Marcus. Liz is also correct that she shared a bed with me while she lived with me. She is again correct that nothing about our relationship was romantic or sexual. Often, as we went to bed, we would cuddle and spoon in a non-sexual way. For clarity, I'm reading this for the first time, people. Marcus, if I ever had to share a bed with you, I can 1,000% guarantee you that we will not cuddle. I'm just putting that one out there. And number two, I've never cuddled with a woman that wasn't intimately. Lagana, you getting some of that lie on you. We also did this a few times. We shared a bed prior to her living with me in 2010. What? Hey, you want to come over and spoon all night? Sure, but I'm not sexually into you. Yeah, me neither. What?
It's, again, getting long-winded. You're not outright denying the allegations. What you're doing is framing it to act like, hey, just saying, it's not exactly what it was here.
This is like that person, Marcus, on Twitter who says, I'm a vegan, but I still eat beef. Bitch, you ain't no vegan. As Liz correctly said, I've never made a non-consensual move on her during waking hours. However, her claim that I made a non-consensual move on her while we shared a bed is false. I did not touch her in the way she claimed. I never touched her like that, and I never would have. But Liz's allegations of sexual assault is not the only portion of her Twitter posts where I feel compelled to correct the record. In early August of 2010, Liz informed me that a friend of hers had invited her out to Los Angeles to attend a show that I was not affiliated with. Ultimately, she stayed with me and my roommates starting in mid-August. Liz suggested that I did nothing to help her upon her arrival, but as a friend, I offered her all the help I could. This includes taking her to the NWA Hollywood event on August 25th. Again, when he's trying to be vague about how long he's known her, I was like 7, 5, 2, 34 years. But when it comes to being super specific in his defense, all of a sudden we got some fucking digits. I introduced her to those in charge. I was an unpaid producer at the time with the NWA, so I had no hiring or firing authority. Liz also left out the fact that her relationship with my female roommate, while the roommate did not initially know Liz was coming, once Liz arrived, she treated Liz like a sister. So apparently, he's validating a lot of what she said. She gave Liz food and clothing, and fucking Dave. Oh my God! Don't tell me she came to LA with no clothes. I mean, I'm sure she had clothes on, but like, really, you had to give her clothes, Dave? God, come on. They remained friends for years after Liz moved out. But despite the friendship, the first time my then roommate found out about these allegations was last week. Liz claimed that I kicked her out of the apartment because of the alleged incident. Actually, in an email I sent to her on September 24th, 2010, I informed her that my landlord stated that per my lease, my guests staying longer than 2 weeks consecutively would not be added to the lease. It would need to be added to the lease. The landlord said that they were willing to look the other way for the 7 weeks Liz was with me and my roommate, but would not do so after October 1st. I offered her some of my frequent flyer miles if she wanted a flight home. Marcus, if I take you in, right? If you go, man, I got nothing for me anymore down in Baton Rouge, can I come up and live with you? I'd be like, sure. And if someone goes, I need to add him to lease, I'm like, well, he's not going anywhere, sure, add him. Like, right? Like, wouldn't that be the illogical thing to do? Like, she's clearly your friend. You're clearly helping her out. What's the big deal? Why wouldn't you add her to the lease, Dave? The landlord's saying you can. Like, this isn't a situation. It's like Mr. Roper from Today's Company. Like, what are you doing? This is worse than Marty's. Oh, my God. After Liz moved out of my apartment, she and I remained in contact over social media and email for years, even endorsing me on LinkedIn in 2013. During that time, she would occasionally email me about opportunities in the wrestling industry that I did, and I did what I could to help. The speaking out movement is creating change in our industry. I wish Liz all the best in her career inside and outside of the ring, but I adamantly deny her allegations against me and could not let them go without providing details about our friendship. Dave. I believe he, quote unquote, resigned from the NWA. Like, I'm, quote unquote, tall. I'm 5'6" for reference. Fuck. Marcus, we've been very big fans of the NWA for a long time. Me dating back to when I was twee, and I was going, go Sting, go! Because, I was fucking stupid and couldn't talk right. That speech impediment that I still have to this day. Fucking don't at me. But it's one of those things, like, I'm watching this, I'm reading this, I'm seeing this play out, I'm like, man, like, this is, again, like, clearly a lawyer didn't help Dave Lagana with this. But, like, the specifics of the dates, but not knowing how long you've been friends with someone. Like, Marcus, I think we've been friends, like, what, since 2014? Is that about right? 6 years, give or take?
Yeah.
Maybe 2013? About 6 to 7 years. Like, but we're cutting the difference by a few months, maybe. And you want to know what other dates I don't know? All of them. I have to write Marcus's birthday down so I don't forget it, because I am terrible with fucking dates. But about 6 years. I know June 11th is his birthday, because I have it written down. I don't know when Zach's birthday is. I rely solely off of Facebook for that. But, like, if you were like, yeah, like, in the summer of 2010 or the fall of 2010, she had to move out because of so-and-so. All right. And, like, the only one I'm fine with, like, the only date that makes sense is the one where he's like, and in an email I sent to her. Why are you sending an email to her? Why don't you just tell her? Doesn't that seem a little sketchy?
Yeah, like, it really, and, I'm no expert in putting out statements, and, God, I hope to never be, specifically when it comes to this, these type of scenarios. But, like, it felt like he overexplained. Like,
yes,
I would imagine, like, the point of this thing is to attack the specific accusation. I can understand establishing the fact that y'all have history in the friendship, and either outright denying or confirming. and then getting out of there. Like, but he always like he just went to these depths. It's like unless you're trying to establish a pattern where there's been consistent instances whether she's had lapses of mental misjudgment, if you will, where she's been, perhaps bipolar or something to that nature that could lead to her, being in a scenario where she would uh, inaccurately accuse you of something. You just gave people a bunch of unnecessary information.
So I like to tell the story because it kind of paints exactly what you're talking about. When you over-explain something, you out yourself, essentially. I remember when I was a kid, I over-explained one time that I didn't break a lamp by accident. So full legit, I was like 12, 11, maybe 10. And we had Skinamax. I'm a curious young lad. I want to watch some adult content. I don't know what kid doesn't try to pull this one. At least did when there was cable. So I was fucking watching. My grandmother woke up. I fucking turned it off and jolted into my fucking room. The layout of the house makes the story a lot more obvious. Like, the house was like a long ranch house, and like it wasn't a ranch because it did have a second floor, and like it was like a straight shot visually from the upstairs to the living room. So I had a like, fucking dart, but I knocked over the lamp. I was like, fuck. And I went on this fucking detailed ass story, like, oh, I was going to the bathroom and my brother was out and he bumped it when he was running back to the room and he had sweat on his brow and I was trying to do, I was pulling everything out of my ass. And my grandmother goes, "You're fucking lying." And I'm like, "No, I'm not." Dave, you fucking lying. You over-explained, my dude. Like, you don't need to be this detailed. All you got to say is, I didn't do it. I never would have done it. Why she's saying this is making my head hurt, and I wish her she would get help because this is fucking lies. When you over-explain, when you over-enunciate, you are trying to hide something. I over-enunciate to hide my speech impediment.
And eerily enough, this is a way somebody could twist this, even though it does seem like he in the beginning of it tried to get it out the way early. Somebody could establish that as like he went through all that, I guess, to try to establish a history. So to say if something did happen, there was a level of I guess comfort there because of how long they've been friends, sleeping in beds together, him helping her out. There's a level of comfortability there, which again, like I said, that's a way that could be spun. And like I hope that's not what that's trying to establish, because regardless to whether you're with somebody or not, no is a complete sentence. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, it's just
Marcus, you're. I am so proud of you tonight because that's exactly what he's doing. You and I are going to start a law firm. It's going to be the Black and White Law Firm. And then when we introduce ourselves, like when we go to the court, they're going to address you as Mr. Black, and I'm going to be addressed as Mr. White. I'm going to be like, "Excuse me, I'm Mr. Black, he's Mr. White. How dare you do that?" And then we're going to sue them for racial discrimination. We're going to be in the money. But you're right. Like, this is exactly what he's trying to do. At least I'm in my opinion, this is what he's trying to do as a non-barred attorney, as someone who didn't get his JD. This is someone who is definitely trying to build a bit of a history. Oh, yeah, no, we did it all the time. You want to know what this reads to me? There's an old saying that I think is apropos. No one does anything for a long period of time who hates doing that thing. If you're cuddling with someone, you're not doing it because it's non-platonic. You're doing it because you're trying to get something out of it. You think there's some gratification there. And here's the thing with non-platonic. If you're doing something non-platonically, you're doing it basically kind of indifferently. I eat like a bunch of fucking peppers and shit for like vegetables. I don't like them. I'm doing it because it's healthy. I'm doing it platonically. But I'm so into pizza. Oh, I eat that shit. Oh, that's a romance right there. It's fucking like Lady and the Tramp, fucking Aladdin, 50 Shades of Grey, and me and pizza. Damn sure 4 big romances the last 50 years. This is him trying to explain away his obsession, I would say, or his infatuation might be a more fair word, of a woman who never had the same or requited feelings for him. I believe he made a move on her. It backfired mightily. And now because he confirmed everything but that one thing. Like, did you notice that? Like, everything she said was confirmed by Dave Lagana. Like, did you notice that? I find that to be perplexing. I found that to be mightily perplexing. You evaded and omitted just enough to make the story seem legitimate. Oh, Dave, you're a writer. You're a writer, and it shows. It shows. So I don't want to say for sure that he did this because I don't know. I wasn't there. And I don't want to sit here and say that I believe flat out undeniably because I'm still someone that while I want to be open to accusations, I'm of the mindset of I don't believe all women. I'm of the investigate all claims variety. I'm never going to turn away a woman who says so-and-so did something. I'm going to be like, all right, I'm going to look into it and see what I find. But I'm not going to just be like, oh, that he's a scumbag. Because I do believe that even if it's and it's on the higher side of 10%, it's closer to 15, 16% for most cases. But there is a big enough chunk of individuals who make up accusations. And I think it's only like 15%. Of all accusations are false. But there's also an old adage when you start studying for law, and it's drilled into your head. If one man, or one person, I should say, is falsely convicted of a crime, then that's one too many. But that's not to dispel, take away, or deny the experiences and claims of these individuals speaking out. Because there's also another rule of thumb when it comes to predators. There's never just one victim. So it's really easy to find out who has some dirt on them and who doesn't. I wouldn't be surprised if Dave Lagana gets another accusation. I wouldn't be surprised if there's individuals who are already named him but are afraid to say it.
Yeah, it's funny. I think this also needs to be said overall with all this stuff, because a lot of people, they're in the feelings about a lot of stuff, and they feel like a lot of these accusations are putting very much a tainted image, obviously. I mean, clearly on something that they love, and they feel like, a lot of these guys getting put out is going to hinder some of the products that they love. And they really need to put those feelings in the back and kind of look at it because I think it's very easy to kind of paint this thing solely into the sexual allegations part of it or the crimes of it. It's really predatory behavior in terms of anybody taking advantage of their position, whether it be to coerce or blackmail or what have you, or try to manipulate somebody into doing anything.
Mm-hmm.
These are the scumbags, regardless. Like this is the filth of the business. Like there's 100% a lot of good people in this business, but these people, who clearly have had a lot of disingenuous or just outright scummy behavior in terms of using their positions to manipulate people into getting what they want, whether it be something just cringeworthy or outright criminal. It can't be allowed.
No.
It can't be allowed. Like you said, they're young people getting in this business. They're people who are and kind of at their wits' end in terms of this is all they know how to do. So they definitely just trying to get any type of headway, and there's people taking advantage, and even taking out the sexual connotation situations of it. These people can't be allowed to remain in the business because it taints everybody. So I think the Laganas or whether it be Cornetta, anybody, like I said, that's using any type of position to manipulate people into doing anything, no matter how harmless it is, they have to go. And you have to realize that and kind of try to put yourself in these people's shoes because, I'm sure we're gonna get to him too. It's always a different situation if somebody, very flippantly says they'll come and sexually assault you because of how attractive you are on a podcast.
Oh, he's
right?
on deck. Well, he's actually in the hole in regards because we got two more we got to get to before we get to him.
It's very easy to brush that aside when it's not somebody you know or it's not you.
Yeah.
It's a joke
Yeah.
from the outside looking in. So you got to place yourself in these situations. And again, these a lot of people are exposing themselves more by putting these statements out. And I don't know how they don't see that. Like I get the concept of wanting to, I
Sorry.
get the concept of want to get ahead of the shitstorm, but you're making it worse.
See, Marcus is like one of the reasons why I always wanted to bring Marcus onto the show is because I know when I get going, I've been dormant for about a year and a half on Twitter, like just doing my job. Like this whole thing reignited me. I brought Marcus on to be like the calm, cool, collective force. You know, he's pretty low key, pretty chilled. He's always got something nice to say about everyone. Oh man, pizza guy, he fucking broke my foot going away, but man, that pizza was fresh. Like Marcus is always looking on the positivity side of things. I'm not. So when Marcus fucking drops you like that with the y'all don't know what the fuck you're doing to your own goddamn legacies because you're too stupid to read your own fucking thoughts. Oh, granted, I put a little bit more pepper on what he said, but like, oh, that makes me laugh. That's like that episode of Titus where the pastor who is going to conduct the wedding at the Titus wedding jumps on Titus's mother's boyfriend's lap to beat him up after he finds out that Titus's mom is being abused. Like that's what just happened. Marcus in his cloth and little neck thing, I forget what they're fucking called, just jumped on a dude. I don't even know what to do anymore. I'm just standing there going, do I stop it? I should stop this. I'm not going to stop it. Fire me! I'm already fired. Fire me! I'm already fired.
Yeah, it almost feels like it's funny. Like me, you, and all the other logical people feel like, and again, referencing BVS, we feel like we're Lex and all these douchebags, these scumbags are being outed, and they're blind supporters of Superman. And these allegations are coming up, and they're coming up with these stupid statements, and it's Superman flying up, and we're going, "Why do we have problems up here?" and then they're like, "Oh, like no, my career's safe on the ground. What about you?" And then we present pictures of all their stupid statements. And then they just hit the ground. And it's like, now the scum bends to my will.
All right, so let's. I don't know what we're about to get into with this Austin Aries story. So let's read this fucking thing. Yeah. So Austin Aries put this out. I have no idea. So apparently he's been accused of things now too. Okay, let's get into it. I've been reading, listening, and reflecting. Our world has changed a lot in my 40-plus years on this planet and my 20 years in the wrestling world of pro wrestling. Frankly, I'm happy we are collectively addressing some of these long-standing, not-so-secret, dirty secrets and exposing a dark underbelly of not just pro wrestling, but all of our societies. It's long overdue. I welcome it, and I want to help move these discussions forward about abuse of power and our relationship roles and responsibilities to one another as men and women. To be able to do that effectively and to have any credibility, I have to be transparent and I have to be honest about my own successes and failures in the space. I certainly haven't lived a flawless life. I wouldn't have said the right thing or made the right choice. I haven't always said the right thing or made the right choice, whether professionally or personally. But let me be clear. I know who I am and who I am not. I am not a sexual predator. I am not a user. I am not an abuser. Contrary to what some believe, the Austin Aries character that I portray and the man that I am are not one and the same. Now more than ever, making this distinction is more important. Daniel Healy Soulwold Jr., the man that I am, condemns abuse in all forms and is here to join others in speaking out. I have nothing to hide. I am here to listen and I'm here to talk. I want that responsibility because ultimately that's what will help me become a better person and help me leave this world and the pro wrestling universe a better space, a better place. I've seen and heard a lot in my 2 decades involved with pro wrestling that I am not okay with. As products of our environment, it seems to have an opportunity to finally change the environment for the better. I'm all for that, and I'm all in. If I was ever part of the problem, please know the sincerest apology I can offer to be part of the solution. Aries was accused of sexual assault by several women last week, including a story from pro wrestler Arlia Nix. Another story from Rhett Titus. Shoot an interview also resurfaced online with Titus, revealing that Aries talked to his then girlfriend into kissing his testicle in the locker room at a Ring of Honor event. Oh boy. Since leaving Impact Wrestling, here we go. Aries spoke with Chris Fleet about the now infamous moment on TNA Wrestling, Impact Wrestling. Come on, guys. He stuck his crotch in Chris Dami's face after she botched the names of the competitors in the match. Aries backed into her corner and demanded that she correctly announce his name before then climbing down off the turnbuckle and stood with his crotch in Hemi's face. That was actually, I think that was like 2013. Aries ended up being fined $5,000 by the company, but maintained that he didn't sexually harass her and it was just in character. Every time I've met Austin Aries, early in Nix says he has made a comment about my boobs and hugged me too close and for too long to feel I've had multiple people message me about how the awful things he has done, but he's not a predator or nothing of the sort. And she posted a Stanley gif of him rolling his eyes. Tori, I was DM'd a pretty horrific Austin Aries story that I feel there are probably too many. Back in 2010, after a show in Manhattan Aries, there's going to be a lot there. Austin Aries asked me to stand in front of him and dance for him, and then then asking me to move my shorts to the side so that I can see. Then telling me if I don't dance, it means I have no rhythm and I'm bad in bed. Then I continued to invite me to his room 3 times, which I ignored. That was from Hannah Price. The story from Tori goes, back in 2010, after a show in Manhattan, this is not from Tori, a.k.a. at Slay Mysterio. This is from someone who DM'd her. This person writes, back in 2010, after a show in Manhattan, Aries and another wrestler needed a place to stay for a few hours before a flight. My best friend, who can confirm it if she's comfortable, let them crash in her studio apartment. The agreement was the boys on the floor and the girls on the bed. After lights out, Aries crawled into the bed between us. At one point, he put his hand on my thigh, and I pushed it off. He's creepy. He's been creepy. He will always be creepy. Someone wrote, I remember when Selena Vega was adamant and not wanting to be associated with her ex ever again. That's usually not a good sign. When he was with the WWE, they were in Minnesota. The dude had done extra work, so we all went out after. It was most people that I had already known, but Aries was there. I cannot remember that shitty thing he said, but it was derogatory as hell, and I knew in that moment I hated him. I'm not laughing at her pain. I just love the way she phrased that. And in that moment, I knew I hated him. I'm going to use that. Because that's like something that you would hear like Morgan Freeman narrating in a movie. And then Jack ran down the hill. And in that moment, Jill knew that she hated him. I can't do a Morgan Freeman voice. I'm not even going to try.
Morgan Freeman. But
that's almost a Morgan Freeman voice, by the way. You can almost hit that. Thank you.
Right.
Like you had to enunciate.
Well, yeah, it's he's a very specific voice. But I was also seen in that like 100% white light, or in that moment I knew I loved him, or in that moment I knew we'd be best friends. It's almost never. And in that moment, I knew I'd try to kill him forever.
And in that moment, I knew I would make him breathe his last breath in that pond over there. So, one of the other names I kind of brought up is Kevin Owens. No one's accusing him, but I feel this is an important point that needs to be pointed out. See, Michael Elgin basically told a story, right?
Yeah, you brought this up before.
Yes. I've brought this up many. People have come for me for this story. Michael Elgin told a story on the Kevin Owens show, which was a show that aired on High Spots or was produced by High Spots and was either available digitally or by DVD. And basically, it's a show where Kevin Owens interviews his friends. Cheeseburger's there, he's there, and this week, that particular week, Elgin was there. And Elgin tells a story about how, I think it was 2005. He was up in a show in Canada, and like some of the quote-unquote TNA guys were there. Monty Brown, Lance Hoyt, Bentley, I think, like classic 05 names that you would see in TNA. Because they were running a show that I think was parallel with Scott D'Amore's BCW, or, were being loaned out because, that whole region kind of had like a series of guys that all help one another. So this was like a heavily influenced TNA roster. And Elgin told the story about how he... another one of his friends took 3 women back to their hotel, or 2 women back to their hotel, and basically sexually assaulted a woman in a bathroom. And he's bragging about it, like vehemently. Like they're talking about how they're having sex or something, and the one girl just kind of breaks down and runs off into the bathroom, and Elgin starts joking about, hey, baby, let me pee on you or something like that. And she's like, no. And he's like, come on. And she's like, no. Then he talks about how he's in the middle of the doorway and she can't get around him. So he's like, come on. Elgin's only like 5'7", 5'8", but he's about 5 and 6 feet wide. So not a tall dude, but he ain't small. He and I have the same kind of body type. And that's one of those things where you're kind of like, that's super fucking illegal. That's kidnapping, essentially. That you cannot restrain someone or prevent someone from leaving a vicinity. That's illegal. That's a felony. That's a felony in Canada. And I don't even know Canadian law. I can tell you that's a felony. She then eventually relents, lets him do it, but then she recedes consent midway through, and he's like, what am I going to do, stop? And he starts laughing. Kevin Owens, at this point, is laughing hysterically at this poor woman's assault. Cheeseburger sitting in the little chair like the fucking creepy little gnat that he is. Just fucking, what is he, 110 pounds of ugly? And they're all fucking sitting there laughing at Elgin's story of him sexually assaulting a woman. Kevin Owens isn't that good guy. He fucking laughed at a woman's assault. And to be clear, Michael Elgin's defense for this was, I made it up. Even though Kevin Owens says, before the interview, I know this story. I haven't heard it, but I haven't heard you tell it, but I've heard it. I've heard it through the people that we know. So he didn't make it up. Elgin was telling the fucking truth. He sexually assaulted a woman in Canada. And Kevin Owens laughed at it.
Here's the real thing for people defending that. Well, you clearly say you made it up. Even if that were true,
who thinks that's funny?
That's an effed up story, right? Exactly. But that's an effed up story. Like what in what world? Okay, like the lengths these people will go to defend this stuff is it's hilarious. I made it up. Okay, you that detailed about a made up story, so that just. That makes you an a-hole and a really a dweeb in a lot of ways that you have concocted stories that detailed on the Reddit, so you can sound like you're the man in the moment.
So I've mentioned to you about Community before, the show with Donald Glover and God, why can't Allison Brie and all them. How many episodes of that show have you seen? Have you seen them all?
No.
Well, there's an episode where Troy and Jeff, played by the guy who did the soup, well, I can't remember his name. He was the guy that Jax beat up randomly in that bar one day. That narrows it down, Chad. So Jeff and Troy are playing basketball, and they end up finding this secret garden with a trampoline. And there's a gardener there saying, like, this is a place for the light, for peace, and they start jumping on the trampoline, and it ends up being like this euphoric, transcendent, spiritual experience. And Jeff's, he's like, man, that's so cool. And the gardener's like, man, I didn't think you'd take to it. And he looks at Troy and goes, but some people are just naturally gifted jumpers. And Troy's like nodding. He's like, yeah. But then at the end of the episode, the gardener gets caught because the trampoline and garden were all like against regulation. So the gardener gets caught and gets fired. And they start tearing down the garden and they get rid of the trampoline. And Jeff and Troy, because they indirectly caused it to be found out. So Jeff and Troy are like, man, Mr. Gardner, I forget his name. Man, I'm so sorry that we found we got this, we got you fired and we got your sanctuary torn down. And the Gardner goes, yeah, it's okay. I should have known better than to let a black guy in. And Troy goes, yeah, wait, what? And then Jeff's like, the Gardner was racist. I didn't see it coming. And Troy said that, and Jeff goes, did we? And then they flash back to all the really micro racist things that he was saying to Troy. And then at one point he's standing there without his shirt on. He's got the fucking Nazi symbol there. And they're all like, what's that? And he goes, oh, it's going to be a maze. And Jeff and Troy are just like, oh, it's going to be a maze. That's what this is. We saw you being a fucking pervert. You can go, oh, it's going to be a maze all you want. But bitch, we know you a Nazi. Not literally. The character was a Nazi in the show. Fucking Elgin and Owens are just fucking creepy as hell. And we see it. Man, you showed it. We saw it.
Yeah, like you said, that's on. Sorry. That's on video, like I say. And when it goes to the Aries thing, I mean, he just comes off like a just complete douche tool. And with that statement that he put out, it sounds to me, and it's just my opinion, that if there was no sex involved, then in his mind it wasn't an assault or anything to be viewed negative. But I'm like, dude, you sitting there, um, I guess coercing these women to do these things, or wording it in such a way. Oh, if you don't get in front of me and don't twerk, it proves you can't dance. Or if you get me and you dance shittily, that means you suck in bed. Like all this stuff. Like you got, it's amazing to me these guys don't put themselves in uh, these other people's shoes. Like if somebody was doing what you're doing to them right now, if it would be cool with you, why do you think it's cool with them? But then it comes a level of that arrogance where it's like either he's doing it because he feels it's okay because he's a dude and that's a chick, or he thinks it's okay because he's Austin freaking Aries. And in both scenarios, it's wrong. But again, for him, it sounds like if there was no sex involved, I didn't try to forcibly do anything physically, then clearly I'm not a predator.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly how this is. Like, I think it's a combination of both. I think he thought because he's Austin Aries and because she's a woman, he can get away with that, and that's fucked. That is genuinely just a fucked mentality to have. It's just fucked. So we got another one, and then we'll get to Mr. I want to get on Sasha Banks without her consent. Fucking douchebag. So, the mother of Paige. Ooh. What's that word? What's that saying? At the end of the day, the Reaper comes for us all. Well, I guess Paige's mom, Sarah Knight, is next. So retired NXT star Charlie Morgan, a.k.a. Yasmin Lander. If I ever have a daughter, I'm not sure I would name her Yasmin. It's a really nice name, but it also just makes you think stripper. And I don't want to saddle her with that baggage. But it's a nice name. Like, I like it. Yasmin. Like, it sounds like a spice. Like, what are you putting in your pasta sauce? Some Yasmin. Just saying. Is one of the many people accusing Sarah Knight, a.k.a. Julie Hammer, and a wrestling school of multiple counts of allowing physical and mental abuse and several counts of sexual assault. On June 22nd, Lander issued a statement on Twitter detailing several instances of abuse and inappropriate behavior on the school. This is from Bill Pritchard. Yeah, so I'm going to take this one to the bank. You can trust Bill Pritchard. He's stand-up journalism. Since then, Lander, Alice Smith, Hannah Holmes, and Aisha Raymond have also joined in a joint statement to Bells, spelled B-E-L-L, to T-O-B-E-L-L-E-S, which is the southern phrasing for a woman of high society. A belle, if you will, a belle of the bod. Accusing the Knight family and their school, World Association of Wrestling, of fostering an environment that allows physical and psychological abuse. Keep in mind that her family has so much fucking, evidence that would support that they are not in the right frame of mind. Constantly going after people on Twitter, constantly talking shit about people. It's not the good. Among the allegations, the statement said female trainees were forced to get in the ring to show their aggression, where they would be physically beaten to be made an example of in front of a room of people. Holy fuck. I skimmed this when I woke up. I didn't realize it was that bad. In addition, one female trainer was accused of groping men's genital regions for a laugh. Oh, we got a story coming. Another account claimed that the family asked a 14-year-old trainee to sexualize her appearance to get bookings. Marcus, I skimmed this. God. Oh, that's going to make me sick. The statement also said one of Knight's family members tried to talk to trainees into group sex, and when they were rebuffed, one had their WWE tryout pulled, and another female was ultimately blacklisted from wrestling from other companies. Holy shit. Sarah Knight has since issued a statement on her Facebook page refuting all claims made against her before saying she's stepping away from wrestling business and she'll let the police and lawyers handle things. Oh, good. She's trying to slap back. So, for the last 3 days, Sarah Knight goes on to say, I have sat wondering what exactly is needed to satisfy this bloodthirsty hunt, my life, you want me to die. You think by pushing buttons I am going to lie there and just take it. This sounds like a specific Cheeto that I won't mention. Firstly, I refute any statements regarding kissing a minor. That's fucking sick. And if Norfolk police want to come and chat, to me about it, I fucking welcome it. Ooh, there's that false bravado. Where was the parent? Oh. Oh, blame the parents. Oh, Marcus. If we drank, this would be a great drinking game for the blame the victim bingo card that we're probably working on in secret. As soon as they say it, you drink. But we don't drink, so we're not really working on it.
Is this in context to what was the parent period when they were at the training school, or what was the parent when this so-called incident happened?
I think it's the latter. So here's what the whole sentence says. Where was the parent during this apparent act? Exclamation point. Not a question. Like, that was a question. Where was the parent during this apparent act? She put an exclamation point. Not a question mark. 10 years old at a show alone? I don't think so. I hope you have good lawyers. I will welcome any police inquiry into this matter. I absolutely deny this. I doth protest. Wait, no. I think she doth protest too much, Marcus. Oh, Sire Knight, I knew her well. The East and... Fuck Shakespeare. Stop teaching people Shakespeare. It's terrible. Yasmin, we were talking up till April this year. Why didn't you say, comma, you came to my gym just before lockdown during training, comma, cuddled me, comma, you and Alice came in, comma, in front of 30 people, exclamation point, exclamation point. I don't get it. I don't know how, I'm not sure what I'm more offended by, Marcus. Her defense or her bastardization of the language that her people invented. Aisha, we didn't get on, which is British for we didn't get along. We fought hard, and you gave as good as you got. You didn't back down. We argued like equals. If you're training her, you're not an equal. I'm shocked. Marcus, I am shooked it. I'm shooked it. As far as I'm concerned, you are entitled to whatever opinion you have of me. You are no shrinking violet. You're allowed to think badly about me because you're a cunt. Okay. That's a hell of a defense. Marcus, I've heard some defenses in my life. That's a hell of one. Alice, I am shocked. I have always loved you. This hurt bad. You can't see, but I'm doing the Jim from The Office glance in your direction like, mm-hmm. In fact, everyone that has written something, no matter whether true or false, oh no, oh no. She did not consult her attorney before posting this.
Guillotine meathead.
Marcus, you just admitted that some of it's probably true. She's fucking stupid.
Oh no, finish it, because now she's brought everybody into it.
So I'll reread this all the time. In fact, everyone that has written something, no matter whether true or false, right or wrong, has plenty of time to approach me. Why wait all this time? I can feel that brain hemorrhage finally coming on. I will be stepping away with immediate effect. Who? Lady, download Grammarly. What are you doing? You type like you're 10. Didn't half of Paige's family not even finish high school or primary school, whatever they call it over there?
I do not know. I
will be deleting all social media. You can attack me via sweetsara@hotmail.com. That's SWEETSARAYA@hotmail.com. I will be happy to forward everyone's point of view to my solicitor. I'm sure, as you can see, that the business will be in great hands. And for every yin, there is a yang. I know that this is now going to crescendo, but it's okay. There are two sides to every story. Remember that. You know, kind of like, you abused me. No, I didn't. I just touched you inappropriately. Duh! I'll be stepping away. Thank you for the 30 years. I am done. I cannot believe that I am being attacked in this fucking insane way. I am walking away because I am heartbroken, not because I am forced to. I cannot stomach even being around wrestling. I have to get fuck all to hide. I have done fuck all to warrant this. I train hard. Marcus, she doesn't deserve this. She trained hard. I have trained everywhere, made more of my money in training than wrestling. I am such a bad teacher. Well, from the mouth of babes, right? You girls can go fucking... You girls can fucking go. That's no coincide. I cannot accept this, and I won't. I am seeking legal advice. You should have thought it before writing this. Any allegations now, please forward to Norfolk Police. Or at her hotmail at sweetsara@hotmail.com.
She's still talking.
Right, so whoo.
It's there's so much here. Clearly, foundationally, clearly an opinionated woman. To get that out the way. Yeah, I mean, a lot of things. I mean, look, first off, the whole thing about the where were the parents thing, like when the incident went down. First off, who's to say that they even told their parents?
Right.
One, and two, if you're talking about they should have been there while the kid was training. If you're a proper trainer, that concept matters as much to you. It should matter as much to you as it does to parents. So if there was an instance where they were really young and you are this quote unquote great trainer, you should make it a point to have the parent there. Yeah. I would imagine. So there is no effery down the line, or there can't be in a situation like this that will come up because something like this happened. The parent would have seen it on the spot if you made it a point for them to be there. That's that part. When it comes to, I guess, the relationship she had, quote unquote, with I guess one of these girls she was more friendly with than the other. It comes off with her wording anyway, like, okay, if I did touch you in an inappropriate way, one, you didn't call it out at the time, and two, after it said incident, we were friendly, and you don't get to be offended and then be friendly after the fact and then come back and then throw this in my face. And then with the other girl, who apparently she wasn't friendly with, just because I'm a cunt doesn't mean I touched yours.
So this is the OJ. I didn't do it, but if I did, we're gonna.
You got the training, did? You got your training in, did? If I did touch you, you got your training in, did you?
I mean, that's how it reads to me, man. She even says, whether true or false, right or wrong, she admits that she's done some of this. She herself admits that she's done some of this. I didn't make her write true or false, right or wrong. That was her. That was her not heeding the advice of Dave Lagana and Marty Scurll's attorney, who are both probably represented by the same guy that Matt Riddle's represented by, I would assume.
It's
a contract law attorney is trying to handle a sexual assault allegation case. Oh, I can't wait to see how that goes down.
And again, to be clear, she's just like accused of like inappropriate touching, right?
Right. I don't know the exact allegations because I don't follow any of these women. I haven't seen any of these women's retweets. There is a joint statement that we can glean through. We are gonna. I do have some suggestions on how to improve training.
Yeah.
But by no means are these stories on paper being compared to some of the horrific sexual abuse cases coming to light. I personally witnessed, along with many others, where female trainees were made to get in the ring to show their aggression, where it would no longer be a work. Women have also been brutally beaten in the ring during matches on a professional show by a female trainer who, when she felt like it or was having a bad day, she would physically assault her opponents where it was no longer a work and the girls were no longer selling, but would come out battered and bruised, crying and feeling helpless. There would be no explanation, and we just left to feel it was part of becoming a wrestler. One of the head female trainees also deemed it necessary to grab and grope men's genitals region for a laugh, or again, if she wanted to make an example of someone almost as a somewhat threat. That's almost a somewhat threat. All of this from abuse their positions of power to make trainees feel helpless, scared, and manipulated. I remember one of the trainees telling me that they were booked for Brian Dixon at 14 years old and went to a show with the family. The family later told them after the show, Brian said that he wouldn't book them again because they don't have anything about them that stood out. A member of the family, which is the Knight family, then told them, which is, I believe, the 14-year-old at question, she had gotten, then a member of the family then told them she had got them another booking with Brian and they were going to dress up as a schoolgirl because Brian liked that. Oh, God. Listen, we've all had weird fantasies in our life, but most of them come when the performer is Riley Reid, who's 30, not an actual 14-year-old. Brian, I don't know who, Brian Dixon, you're fucking gross. An actual 14-year-old, that's fucking gross. They could work for him whenever they wear that stuff. Oh, God, that's terrible. They supplied all of the gear, tartan and whites with a school shirt. I think tartan's supposed to be a color, I guess. Tartan and white with a school shirt tied. Kind of like, I would imagine like the Britney Spears Hit Me Baby One More Time video. That video has not aged well. She was like 18 when that video came out. 16, something like that. They had members of the family egging them on, telling them that they looked like a woman. Oh, I need to read these things before I go on the air. Oh, I don't know if I can finish this. They were even told by another wrestler in the family that they'd better not wear it too long or they'd get a hard on. She's 14. You know what I was doing at 14? I was playing with action figures still. I liked me some wrestling action figures. Get the fuck off me. But, like, I was a kid.
They probably view this as harmless humor.
Right? Fucking hell. They were literally only just 14 the year of those two shows. A member of said family tried to coerce 3 of the trainees into having a sexual activity with a group of friends. I wouldn't be surprised if someone said that was Paige's brother. Those same trainees had WWE tryouts a few months later when the trainees didn't partake in the sexual activities that they were being persuaded to undertake. One of the trainees very suddenly and for no real explanation had their WWE tryout revoked. Another member of the family then spread the rumor around that the reason the trainee was taken out of the tryout was due to a porno video, but she spelled it prono video, and them doing the rounds, which is a wrestling term for being a ring rat, a.k.a. a slut, which was untrue. Another member of the family found out about the sexual allegations, and apparently is there more? Oh, yep, there's a whole thread. Oh, there's 4 more. Okay. We're going to keep going. Gotta keep going. So about the sexual, another member of the family found out about the sexual suggestions and asked the trainee whose tryout was revoked to keep quiet about that night, even though the trainee felt manipulated, unsafe, and vulnerable. I remember vividly at a party, the head female trainer dragging another female trainee around completely unprovoked, ripping her tights, pulling her hair, and simply humiliating her in front of 30-plus other people and workers just because she felt like it and thought it was funny. Turns out women suck as much as men do. Go figure. Hey, Marcus, we've always been about the equality, man. Like, we're equalists. This isn't what we had in mind, though. I was a witness that night, and to this day, we'll never understand why anyone, including myself, didn't stand up and do something about this incident. It's the same reason nobody else did anything about the display of abuse. People were fearful and scared of the misconceptions. This is just a small insight into the types of abuse that was commonplace. Now, here's something that I want to point out. It's not an actual syndrome, like the deer in the headlights syndrome, but that idea does exist in humanity. It's why rubbernecking's a thing. When humanity is forced with a extremely obscure possibility, people freeze because they can't comprehend it because it's not something they're used to. It's why whenever you see people running towards a situation, they're former military, former police, former EMTs, former firefighters, former nurses. You know, they have experience. They know what's going on. If you just have, Jilly and Joe and they're just walking out of their big law firm and they see that going down, they might not know what to do. That's just a jarring experience. So I don't blame anyone for watching this go down because how many times do you see that? Like if that happened outside of my street, I'd be like, well, I wouldn't because I've seen that a lot in my life because I was in private security. But I wouldn't be surprised if all my other neighbors were like, whoa, what the fuck's happening? Like that happens, and if anyone has any issues with that, I'm sorry. That's just human nature. Like when you don't know how to respond to something, you freeze. That's just how it is. The story does continue, though. We have 2 more slides. 2 of the head trainers would literally pick fights with some of the trainees to provoke aggression, punching people in the stomach to get a reaction, and backing trainees into corner posts and egging them on, and not backing off until they did, forcing these trainees to hit them back with aggression they had to built up. Some had hair pulled out deliberately, and one of the trainers would say things like, "If you haven't lost any hair, then your match wasn't good enough." There was a particular incident where a tag team, one of the teams were made of 2 trainers. The other team had the head female trainer and an established female wrestler within the company. One of the trainees got brutally attacked without any cause by the head trainer, and the other trainee remained unharmed. The unharmed trainee could see the trainer laying into the other trainee, punching and hitting them so badly that the person was no longer selling and visibly in excruciating pain. The trainee finished the match and was inconsolable afterwards, not knowing what they did to deserve the brutality, whilst the other trainee remained unharmed. This is a perfect example of the trainer picking and choosing when and who they want to manipulate and abuse their power by what they can only be described as physical abuse. Coming out in their private life was a very difficult thing. Before they were even ready to come out publicly to friends and family close to them, their trainer at the time had got wind that they were seeing a girl in the area. That same day, they were publicly embarrassed and humiliated as they entered the gym to train. As they walked in the gym in front of everybody, they were greeted by their trainer. "When were you going to tell everyone you were shagging a girl? Gay, are you?" This sounds like Paige's brother, one of her brothers. I think she has 2. They wanted the grounds to swallow them up. These 48 hours mentally were horrific. Those 48 hours were mentally horrific. Then they checked online to see the newly found gossip of their coming out, to be online, to be mocked and joked about. They have had the chance to personally tell they hadn't had a chance to personally tell their close friends and family. They were not ready. They were not ready. They was made to. These are just some of the experiences about these former trainers and workers have endured. The head trainer's sweet Sarah. The family is the Knights. The promotion is WAW. So, yeah. I never thought I would be on the side of cancel culture, Marcus. Yet here I am. Now, cancel culture as a whole is still like mob justice, but like when you have that many people kind of saying, "Yeah, this fucking happened," I don't disbelieve it. Marcus, before we get to Keith Lee, we got one more thing to talk about, and then we'll get to our suggestions for helping the industry, because just some good advice is good advice. And then I'll ask you about NJPW. So finally, some non-shitty wrestling talk. Oh, this is fucking horrifying. So Sammy Guevara, Marcus, tweeted out or went on a podcast in, 2019, 2018? And he essentially said that he wanted to rape Sasha Banks because he found her so pretty. Now, no one's going to deny, except for maybe a member of the clan, that Sasha Banks is gorgeous. Like, Sasha Banks is... Nah. You couldn't dream up of a better dream girl, right? She's all kinds of beautiful. But she's also an individual who has actual feelings, and she's not just some automaton that you can jump on. She's not a sex doll that you buy at an adult store for $40. She's a person with feelings. Sammy Guevara, I don't want to go into all the details because I don't remember all of them, but there's been stories of Sammy Guevara in the past showing his lack of judgment and his almost narcissistic personality. If you guys can find it, go for it. But there were some instances when he was in Texas of falling outs with promoters. And I think I remember something about a guy dying. I'm not implying in any way Sammy had anything to do with that. He had some health issues. And, either Sammy had issues with the guy beforehand or the guy died, and then Sammy made fun of it. I don't remember which one it was. But it was a big thing, and it came up right when Impact was bringing Sammy Guevara in for that World X Cup that brought in Dez as well. And I remember reading about it, like, holy shit, this kid is a douchebag. But he was also like 18, 19 at the time. So I was like, all right, maybe he's going to, mature and not be such a schmuck, because we've all been schmucks at one point in our life, and, growth is important. But this was like a year and a half ago he said this shit about Sasha. Like, what are you doing? Now, unlike the other instances in mention from AEW, the 2.5 day wait for Jimmy Havoc, the still, what are we on, 6 day wait for Justin Roberts, AEW got on this one right away. I wonder why. They posted this comment saying, AEW insists on doing our part to create a world of understanding and respect for humankind. No, you don't. We therefore strongly condemn the extremely offensive and hurtful words of Sammy Guevara. As such, effectively, immediately, Sammy is suspended without pay until further notice. Sammy has agreed to undergo extensive sensitivity training, and upon completion, his future status with the company will be re-evaluated. Is that their future endeavors? Good luck in your future endeavors. We'll re-evaluate you when people are not as angry. During his suspension, his salary will be donated to the Women's Center of Jacksonville. Sammy Guevara himself has apologized, not just publicly, but privately to Sasha Banks, which I do applaud him for. I don't think Sammy Guevara is, Joey Ryan, and I don't want to compare the two. I appreciate that he apologized to Sasha, and Sasha herself said, listen, I heard him out. I might forgive him. This shit's not okay, though. Let's not pretend it is, and y'all need to do better. And I was like, Sasha, I probably wouldn't even have taken this call. So Sasha Banks is probably a better person than I am. Really kills the possibility of a good heel turn for Sasha, because if she's that nice to Sammy in this intense of a situation, I'll never buy her as a bad guy again. It's like trying to turn Tom Hanks into a villain. You never see Tom Hanks be the villain in a movie. He's just too goddamn likable. Marcus, just, man, I don't know. What's your feelings on all of this?
Well, let's kick it off with the rapidness in which this was handled. It's because there was no gray area in what he said.
Yeah.
There was no. I've seen people like, it was a joke. What? Sit down. Sit your ass back. It's different if somebody's talking about somebody you care about, or you or your mom or something like that. Like any female in your life, it's not a joke then because it's you.
Mm-hmm.
But in this, there was no debating what he said. It was trash. It was, every criticism I'm pretty sure that was hurled at him. Like you said, it was absolutely the right thing to do for him to call and try to square it up with her. She absolutely did not have to take his call. She could have gone the route of throwing him under the bus and jumping in with the crowd and whatnot.
And I don't think she would have gotten too much blowback if she did that.
No, yeah, but I think she realized that even with with everything that's going on between, we're seeing with the racial tensions and whatnot, and then everything that's going on in the wrestling industry, that this was I guess at its bare minimum, a very teachable moment for him, and hopefully for other people with what the statement and everything she put out. But I'm also not one of these people that wants him to do the public thing to make me feel better about what he said. Like, he needed to apologize to her, and hopefully he did learn the error of what he said, and sensitivity training or whatever that he has to go through. Hopefully he gets his mental crap together in terms of how he perceives things. Because when you go back and listen to it, he's clearly fully aware of what he said, because he paused before he said it.
Mm-hmm.
So, very much aware of what he said. This ain't the whole young and the young and dumb thing that people like to excuse. No, he's fully aware of what he said, and he said it. So yeah, like you said, they pounced fast on it, and we'll see what happens. Once things kind of clear up, see if they're gonna keep him. What's eerie about it is his tag team with Jericho is named the Sex Gods.
Oh God.
Yeah, so that's early time. But yeah, like you said, Sasha's better than a lot of people will be in that scenario. I also think there's a level of innate clarity that she's gained, because she's been not in this regard in any way in terms of being being caught in the crap storms going on now, but she's been on the end of what happened when her and Bailey got accused of all that crap, and she was supposedly considered a bad employee, and how many people jumped on her back about that online.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I don't think she's quick to bend to that mentality, because she know how easily it can sway.
Yeah.
But now now she's everybody's favorite. But a month ago, like, oh, the baby took her ball and ran home. Well, that's what I heard anyway. But I'm gonna ride out on her, even though I don't know for sure or have any proof or know her personally. I'm gonna ride out on that train. So, I think she, showed a lot of tact and maturity and intelligence. That hopefully we can see more.
I agree. um, so let's get to the Keith Lee story. Um, I'll read through this real fast. It's not that long. Um, let's see. I'm going to share a story with you that very, very few know. I was watching friends and associates speak out. I am noticed how much strength it is to taking from them to bring forth these stories. I shall share one of my own. I cannot lock down the time frame because of how hazy it was for me. However, I was living in Texas still during this time, perhaps 2016 or 2017. I was in Dallas for an event or maybe just to visit family. Afterwards, I went to an old bar I would sometimes visit and sing at. I did not know Keith Lee was a singer. It would have been some time, so I was unfamiliar with the atmosphere. But the vibe of the music kept me interested. Eventually, I got to sing a song. Afterwards, a young lady asked to sit with me. I was alone, so I did not mind and welcomed her. We went on to talk about the beauty of music and books, random philosophies on life. It was truly a pleasant conversation. I am often told that I am oblivious when someone is interested in me. I would have to concur as I did not realize the interest she was blatantly expressed it, to which I declined as I was taken at the time. She was disappointed but still pleasant. She would continue to make passes throughout the night, citing all that she wanted to do to me. I politely declined and explained I enjoyed the company, but that chat could not continue. I then offered to buy her a drink as an apology, but before I headed to the restroom. She declined and said that she'd buy me one because she enjoyed my song so much that I could go ahead for the bathroom. I expressed gratitude and went to put in a song before heading for the restroom. I would return to fresh drinks. We'd continue discussing these types of training that I do. I tried to get her to sing, but she would act shy and decline, saying that she enjoyed listening to others but didn't want the attention on herself. I even offered to help her with Bohemian Rhapsody. It's kind of my go-to when people are nervous about karaoke. I try to be inviting, and that sing is pure fun. Unfortunately, it's right about here things become extremely fuzzy for me. No matter how much I rack my brain, all I can find myself about is to recall struggling to make it to the stage, stumbling toward a car. After that, I recall waking up naked in a hotel room. I don't even recall if it was my own. Confused and in a panic, I was fortunate enough to have my essentials, such as a wallet and phone, but who knows what all I lost. To this day, I know not what happened. I've tried to forget about it ever since, but I tell this story so people understand anyone can be a victim. Anyone. It is why I randomly stopped drinking, and it's why it remains such a rarity to this day. Keith Lee's a brave-ass man. Full stop. He's a brave-ass man. That's a hard thing to admit to people, especially as a man. There's a lot of abuse that happens to men sexually at the hands of both men and women that people don't talk about because it's hard. Because people think that you can't be a victim if you're a dude. Because we get labeled with this idea that because we're fucking horny 15-year-olds that's who we remain when we're men. Like, no. Most dudes I know aren't constantly thinking of sex. Like, that whole men think of sex like every 28 seconds for bullshit. It's a fucking joke. But people have this fucking falsity that men are slobbering, horny, fucking pigs, and they're not. Most dudes that are like thirsty on the internet, you know what they are? They're lonely. And they lash out because they're lonely. Men aren't these violent, animalistic, sex fiends. They're just dudes. They're just people. I feel for Keith Lee. Like, this story broke my heart.
Yeah, because you're reading this back and forth, and it's kind of like, in the era sense, it's a crescendo to a holy S moment.
Yeah.
Because it's going and it's going. It's like, okay, where is this going? Like, in my mind, I'm expecting her to get just outright disrespectful with her advances.
Right. I thought she was going to get racist. That's where I thought this was going.
Yeah, because I mean, there was he never implied what race she was, right?
Right.
Yeah. So, But yeah, I'm thinking like she's just gonna start getting belligerent because the drinks are gone, and she's just gonna get belligerent. He's gonna have to like have somebody called or something, or have to forcibly do something. But this went, a completely different level. And while I do feel for him, and like I said, it comes very much off like a horror story. And it is a horror story. What I'm talking about, it is a horror story. But because he generally cannot recollect what happened.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so and God, God bless him for coming out with this because this couldn't have been easy for him either. You know, having to, I would imagine that there's a piece of him that thinks about it every day, um, in a lot of respects. But this story kind of this was something that's needed because of the way this stuff is going. Like I said, it's very easy for the perception to be swayed. Like just like you said, it's not a men thing. It's a human thing.
Mm-hmm.
This abuse of power. This like men and women to get the same hormones and in terms of sexual awareness, this, that, and the third. Both parties get horny. Both parties have wants and desires and whatnot. And the situation could be 100% reversed. The woman can be like the CEO, and the man can be the eager intern, and stuff happens. And it's crazy that the men's uh, are reported a lot more. We get a lot more with that, but it's both sides. And the fact that this could happen, imagine because of the perception of society of what men are supposed to do and say and how much abuse they can supposed to take because they're men and supposed to be tough. Imagine how many other wrestlers may have been through similar stuff and aren't talking, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and how many aren't talking because they feel like they being validated, like, oh, you're just coming out so you can, level the playing field so it don't, so all vaginal pillaging bastards are, are deemed bad, or you know how the narrative would
Mm-hmm.
go. So, like I said, I think that the story was necessary, extremely sad. And kudos to him for coming out with that. We need more guys like him to kind of speak up. Just anybody in the industry, really, because Keith Lee is looked at right now anyway as somebody of extreme credibility. So yeah, it sucks, but those kind of things just outside of wrestling, but period, those kind of things happen all the time,
Mm-hmm.
and people have to be real cognizant about walking away from things or accepting things from people and not knowing, when you don't really know them, because that happens all the time, and that stranger danger is real, no matter how long you've been sitting with somebody. So
So, real quickly, Sarah Logan has announced she's stepping away from wrestling. She doesn't
mm,
cite why. My efforts have been on the Wild and Free TV, and that's the best way to keep up. I don't know if that's Instagram, Twitter. I guess it's her Instagram. Is that what I'm saying? Maybe it's something she's doing as a side project. Instagram's taking fucking forever to load. She basically says that a lot has changed in my life recently, and I've stepped away from wrestling for the foreseeable future. Wrestling is all I've known since I was 17, so it's time I let myself focus on other things and explore other parts of myself. My Instagram is going to be different, but I promise it will always reflect me. So if you want to take this crazy ride, then buckle up because things have been moving faster than I can keep up with. The Wild and Free is not specifically hers, but it might be. I guess it's something she's doing. She's an outdoor enthusiast, I guess. My efforts
mm.
have been on Wild and Free TV, and that's the best way to keep up. We're releasing some awesome content. I don't say this enough, but I appreciate you guys, and I hope to see you down the line. Can I tell you what I think this is?
I think we're in the same ballpark.
I think she preggers. I think she's got a little row in her tummy.
Yeah, yeah, a
The little Viking Raider.
little yeah, the Viking Raider, and again, if she is, it's it's not for us to know if she
No,
is. I
she'll
know a
let us
lot of
know in
fans.
due time.
Yeah,
So the reason why I say this is I want it to be a good reason. You know what I mean? Because there are probably a lot of people going, dude, we're in an industry full of fucking perverts. I'm out. I want her to be
that
like, I'm about to have a kid. I'm happy. Like that would be great news. I would love to hear that. Ray Rowe's such a good dude. So he
yeah
should he
that
deserves to have that good life.
Exactly. Or yeah, because even amid all the stupidity those guys have to go through, and maybe they're having fun, for all I know, because they
Like
always
you
wanted
would
to be in a
hope.
position. Yeah, you would hope, because the street profits do seem like fun guys to bounce off of, and if nothing else, you have to find some type of fun with the stupid stuff they have to do. But yeah, I mean, you would hope that and even if she's not pregnant, maybe she's venturing into like what we got with Eric Young when he was the TNA champion, of like just a lot of other avenues opening up specifically in that outdoorsy type of vibe, kind of like what Eric Young was doing. Um, but it's funny, her talking about how busy things are getting outside of work because it's like for them to have, obviously, I'm sure she's gotten the whole "we have nothing for you." Like they creatively stifle you so much, they almost force you to get creative in every other area of your life.
Mm-hmm.
She's been in like you said, wrestling's been everything to me since like 17, and now because she's basically creatively stifled because of the position they put her in, um, or not allowed her to grow in any way. That she's just found another avenues. Like they almost force people to fall out of love with wrestling and fall in love with other aspects of their life that a lot of people don't even get to until they literally get put out the passion. 'Cause, like, everybody can't be Ric Flair.
No, no, they cannot. So if this is all good in the hood, as they say, as all the kids say these days, and Sarah Logan is leaving wrestling on her own terms for a positive reason, I'm all for it. I want her to be
Yeah,
happy. If this is one of
you
those she's
know,
leaving because of all the scummery, I'm so sorry. So, Marcus, finally, I do want to see if you have any final comments on changes in wrestling. Because one of the things that I think we've seen lately is that obviously there needs to be changes, specifically with training and such. I'm gobsmacked that people allow children to train, and I know there's gonna be people who are like, well, you know, this isn't ballet, and it's been like this for years, and who cares? Well, one, Marcus, I would never send a 15-year-old to go get tackled by Ray Lewis. That just sounds like a bad idea for me. Like, hey, young whippersnapper, how about you go get tackled by I don't know, Brian Dawkins? I'm dating myself with these fucking NFL references. How about you go take on J.J. Watt and Aaron Donald? I'm sure that'll go well for you. Go try to block, Myles Garrett, but watch out for the helmet. Like, who would do that? Who would send a 15-year-old into the Lions Den with J.J. Watt and Myles Garrett? Like, J.J. Watt will sack you 30 times from Sunday, and Myles Garrett will brain you. Would you send your son into a fucking football game with NFL athletes who are fully padded?
no. I mean, these guys are monsters outside the pads, man. Like it's just like that mentality is so ass to me, specifically with what you said. Like, oh, this is how it's always been. Just because that's how it's always been, that doesn't mean that's how it needs to be now.
Right?
On the fact that a lot of people can't see that, it says that you just don't want it to change because it's you don't want to be uncomfortable.
What's that Donald
So
Fies
you
online from Remember the Titans? You don't want to believe it?
yeah, Donald Faison, yeah, you didn't know, you don't want to know, like that
Mm-hmm.
whole deal. So that's kind of what it is. And like you said, I mean, these are kids, and there's also the perception of the younger, like the better it'll be for them to pick up. We've seen people pick this sport up as grueling as it is, never having even been interested in it.
Looking at you, D'Angelo Williams.
And it's to me, and maybe I mean this is I guess an easy place to come from because I'm just a fan, never stepped in the ring. But to me, it's more dependent on like the eagerness, the sheer will, and the force of determination of the person to pick it up and the teacher.
Mm-hmm.
Because people have literally been. I mean, how many people we heard have been in the business for years, and we finally get to see them on quote unquote the big stage on TV, and to us they're mediocre.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's guys like, oh, how long has such and such, like freaking Bianca Belair?
Yeah.
Like obviously she's she's an athlete, but she wasn't even really had anything to do with wrestling, watching it or going to shows or whatever. And she looks to be one of the best to do it in her however many years. Not even what 7 years, not even that. It feels like, and she is like a natural. So that whole thing is just, I just think it's an outdated mentality. But so many people have it because, like I said, they was always been as comfortable for them, and they don't want to be, they don't want to get outside of that.
I also think just the risk factors beyond just the physicality is just it's not worth it. I have absolutely no desire to ever see a 16-year-old in a wrestling match with an adult. And I'm not even for like someone floated the idea of like an all like juniors, like not juniors, kind of like what Japan does. They actually have pro wrestling in college. They're like, well, why don't we do that? Set up where it's like a high school club. I'd be fine, or I should say I'd be at least more fine to that idea than I am letting them wrestle with men. But on the other side of things, or women, well, the other side of things is it's not a sport that you should be doing until you're older physically because of the fact that repetitive strikes to your head at a younger age is far more likely to cause brain damage than repetitive strikes to your head at an older age. Because as your brain develops, if it's damaged, it doesn't heal correctly, and it will end up, you'll end up developing a lot of issues. That's why a lot of people who, are abusers or serial whatevers, they're often have, signs of physical trauma to their bodies, usually to their head. So the idea of putting a 15-year-old in a ring with someone and going, oh yeah, this is healthy. It's not. I mean, wrestling in general isn't a healthy activity. It breaks your body down. But advocating putting a 14-year-old in the ring against full-grown adults, who would do that? Like, I know like Lithuania and like the EuroLeague like allows like 16-year-olds to play against grown men, but even that's fucked up. Like, Luka Doncic might be a top 5 NBA player right now, but the idea that he was 15 playing against older men, I mean, yeah, it's a cool thing to brag about, but it's not physically healthy. Or emotionally healthy, for that matter. Or mentally healthy.
I mean, you're spot on and goes. I mean, the jump off a point that you just said about, it's not the sport itself is not healthy. It breaks your body down. Like the concept of, waiting to get older mentally and certainly, building yourself physically. I would think that would be like a no brainer because what you're essentially doing, more so than other sports, you're training your body to do everything that it naturally is against doing, like the back bumps and everything. You're training your body to go against all of its natural instincts.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to train your body like that physically and mentally, and build your body up to be able to take all that blunt force trauma. No matter how much stuff is staged, you're still hitting that mat, and God knows whatever else, depending on the federation. You're like, if you're in CZW, that's a whole different situation.
Yep.
And a lot of people can't really get over that concept of, I'm gonna stand here and wait for this chair to hit me. I'm gonna stand here and do the, wait for this to hit me, because your natural instinct is to put your hand up, do this, duck, and you can't necessarily do that. And a lot of people not able to get over those hurdles, mentally. Physically, let alone mentally. So it's just better to wait. But again, like I said, I think they think that it's, for a lot of people, they probably view it as easy to get over because it's kind of like teaching a child a foreign language when it's young. It's easy to comprehend.
Like, goddamn, you're 100% correct. The one phrase that I always remember as I talk to all these trainers throughout my years, because I've been interviewing wrestlers and trainers for 10 years now. JT Lightning, a former trainer for CAPW, said that the one thing he hates the most is getting someone else's student, because he said to me that it's harder to teach someone to do the right thing when they were taught to do the wrong thing first. So there is that mentality of getting someone when they're young and no experience and getting them in the ring and teaching them all the right things. But the problem is you don't know how to go about that. So I think the first thing wrestling needs to do is implement a hardcore, no fucks given, hard 18 or hard 21 rule. I think every major TV company needs to have a hard 21 rule. No one under the age of 21 can be on our show. No one under 21 can be signed to a contract. Because at 20, you don't know what the fuck you're doing. If you're going to be around alcohol as much as people are in this industry, and one, don't even get me fucking started on the fucking travesty and, fucking epidemic going on in this country about alcoholism. Because goddamn, so many people normalize it, it's not even funny. But if you're going to have all this alcohol, you can't have anyone under 21. Like that's, if you're trying to get insured or if you're trying to have, medical staff there, you can't have alcohol at the venue. You can't have alcohol in the backstage. You can't have anyone drinking, whether they're done for the night or not. That's going to get you fucked in a lawsuit. So if you have alcohol in the premises, whether it's in the audience or backstage, no one under 21. That has to be the first hard rule. Secondly, if it is a dry show, so like anywhere in Utah, no one under 18 can be wrestling at all. Training, no one under 18. These cannot be negotiable. And there should be a cage match, a Dave Meltzer's observer, whoever, who is going to do the job of collecting experiences, conversations, and grading out these training facilities like a restaurant. We at the Pro Wrestling School Observer, or we at the Pro Wrestling School Reviewer or whatever, have determined that WrestlePro's training facility is a B+. Conditioning is a little excessive. It's not for the faint of heart, and you need to come in with a base understanding of what to do because it's more of an advanced school. Some school in California gets an A. It's good for upstarts, younger individuals, has changing rooms for men and women. Both sexes are represented in the training staffs, and all trainees 18 to 19 have to wear headgear while they're training. A+. And then you got the one from Dave Christ, F, because it's Dave Christ, and fuck that dude. But that would help you. That would be a great thing. And people are like, well, what do we do? Do we form a commission? No. Commissions don't work. Ask boxing, ask MMA. They don't work. It only makes things harder. What you need to do is have an independent reviewer take the onus. We have the Observer, we have Cage Match, we have so many different other outlets to gauge wrestlers. Everyone who looks at Will Ospreay goes, oh, yeah, he's one of the best. Well, who says that? Everyone. So we need that for wrestling schools. We need people to be like, yeah, Bully Ray's a dick. Don't train with him. Or yeah, Devon's super fucking cool. Definitely train with him. But we need that in a singular location where people can actually go, hey, I'm a trainer there, or I'm a student there, or I was going to be a student there. Here's my experience. That would be the best way to go about things, I think. And as far as major companies, I think hiring anyone over 21 or under 21 is a bad idea. And I think all companies should have mandatory, any televised company should have mandatory tests for drugs and alcohol on a regular basis, just so you know what you're getting into. And I think every wrestler should have a background check conducted on them, so you know what's being put out there. Have a PI on staff. That needs to be a new trend. Have someone on staff whose entire job is to scour social media for an entire 2 week straight period. That's all they're doing. 8 hours a day going through Twitter. 8 hours a day is going through every feed they can find. Putting out feels into the FBI and local PD, and calling different promoters, looking up who they wrestled with, calling them. That way you get a better understanding of who you're hiring. Because if I was Impact, I never would have touched Joey Ryan because I knew about the allegations about Joey Ryan. Not all of them. I knew about some of them, and not nearly the more violent ones. And I tried to get people to listen. They didn't want to. So that needs to change. Things like Elgin wouldn't have been hired. I would have called 12 at least of Dave Christ's students to see if he was a good dude. Probably wouldn't have heard anything good from them. And this is how you avoid these issues. Calling ex-girlfriends. Hey, did Jimmy Havoc beat you nearly to death? He did? Oh, okay. Guess I'm not going to hire him. These are things that companies need to start doing. Because we need to get rid of the Randy Ortons. We need to get rid of the Vince McMahons. One accusation is more than enough to get skeeved out about who these people are.
Yeah, the vetting process definitely needs to be upped, and that's across wrestling and entertainment and all manners of business in general. Because it's stuff that's coming back to bite them, and how things are now. It's gonna be you're gonna have to change the entire way to work. These workforces work,
Mm-hmm.
and that was like said, like now everybody's got these sensitivity trainings and you know all those what else, but they really gonna have to adhere to it because stuff is gonna come up, man. Like we talked about before, you can delete your social media, but the stuff that's on it takes is the right tech guy, and your stuff is up in seconds.
Mm-hmm.
So the vetting process, like you said, I mean, WWE got people, you know, telling people what to post and this, that, and the third. I mean, they got people monitoring everything with these guys. They severely micromanage. So, the other companies can, if it matters that much to you about your bottom line in the long term, pay somebody to do it. It's enough. Hell, like I said before, you could pull one of these people off Twitter and hire 'em. Freaking, somebody, DM Sky Jackson or whatever.
Oh God,
Or the guy.
she'll let you know who's problematic.
Or something, man. Like but you got to be diligent in this because when this stuff comes up, you're not gonna be the way everything is going now. You're not gonna be able to be like, oh well, this happened such and such years ago. They're not gonna care. It's not gonna matter. So you got to be preemptive in how you deal with stuff.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Marcus, final words. New Japan is back. How are you enjoying the new content?
I'm digging it. I'm liking it. I mean, obviously the crowd is, you know, it is what it is. But I think
Are you saying the
and I
crowd is
told you.
gone, like Marty Scurll's credibility?
Bang bang. Now who's the villain? No, literally. Um,
Still you. Who's the villain now, Skrull? It's still you. Because
uh,
you're gross.
we would like to think not, but we don't really know. But signs are pointing to not so good results. But yeah, New Japan is. And I told you just about WWE. I think people could blame the crowd and they can't watch this and the third. But to me, the crowd not being there was gonna make it without a shadow of a doubt just how creative they were. Because I mean the numbers were dwindling before this, but now it's really showing because you don't have the crowd there to blanket a lot of the crap that's on the show. Like a lively crowd, like those post mania crowds have been better than the actual post mania shows. You
Yeah,
know,
you're
and
not wrong.
but New Japan doesn't really have that problem. The crowd enhances it, and by very nature of Japan in general, a lot of those wrestling crowds, why people love them so much, specifically the performers, is because they are very much respectful of the craft itself and not wanting the talent to get over instead of getting themselves over. So, uh, but to me, New Japan, they're creative. Their talent stands for itself. So, you're looking at New Japan Cup, which is back in full force, in a way. You got matches like, and I still got to watch it. I think this from the second night. Yuji Nagata versus Minoru Suzuki.
Oh no, I need to see that.
Yes, just get your ice and get some more ice because this is bowling shoe ugly, slobber knocker, all those JR euphemisms. So I hear, like I said, I've yet to watch it, but I saw a tag match and Nagata was having none of Suzuki shit, and he actually had him running a little bit. So you already know. Getting him in a situation. And anybody that knows anything about Suzuki Gun, they yeah, they wrestle like the crowd isn't there when they were there anyway, just because of the nature of how Suzuki operates.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not really big. But New Japan, like I said, their talent kind of speaks for itself. Obviously, the crowd is an enhancement, but in terms of the build and the talent and what they do in that ring, all that's still intact. But I understand that people again the crowd is just a piece of the puzzle that they necessarily can't, do without. So, I get it from that perspective. But you can always count on New Japan for this stuff.
So, Marcus, I'm going to consult my Batman 8-ball head. Batman 8-ball head. Is Marty Skrull, or does Marty Skrull have anything to worry about? Nope, come on. There we go. What does it say? 8-balls don't work properly all the time. I don't know why. There we go. It says, Batman is on your side. Marty Skrull, you might have a shot. Batman's on your side. Or maybe it means that Batman's on your side and he's got you. As in, snatched to prison.
That long-awaited match between him and Aldridge is not looking so good right now.
Nope. No, it is not. NWA is not planning on coming back for the rest of the year because of the COVID. Slammiversary now is going to have a new main event because Elgin's suspended. Going to be some interesting times, I'll tell you what. Going to be some interesting times. By the by, it looks like they're booking in the North against Ken Shamrock for Slammiversary for the tag team titles, which means mystery partner. Could it be Kurt Angle? Kurt Hungle? I don't know.
It's interesting. Do you think it could be Callahan?
Ah, that's what they're probably going to do. So Marcus, you ruined it for me.
It's on this where they've been kind of going back and forth.
I mean, you're not wrong. That does make sense. It fucking annoys me. I was hoping we'd get like a Ken Shamrock, Kurt Angle tag team. Like that would have been hella dope.
Double ankle lock tap out to win the titles.
Right? Fucking surround sound, snapping submissions. Like, that's how I want it. So let's call it a night. We're done. We're good. It's realnerdcorp.com, RealNerdCorp.com. We're on Twitter at NERDCRP, on Instagram at realnerdcorp, RealNerdCorp. We're on Podbean at realnerdcorp.podbean.com or by downloading the Podbean app and searching for Real Nerdcorp. We're on Spotify and iTunes by searching NerdCorp, NERDCRP. We're also on twitch.tv/WrestlingUnderground, as well as... That's about it. Marcus can be found on his personals, Paradox Kid, PARADOXKID.
That's me.
You can also find him on his other podcast. He returned to it this past Monday. It's the True Penny Show on Twitter, TruePennyshow.
Yeah.
You can also find me on Twitter at Chad Nerdcorp, ChadNerdCorp, MOUSE. I'm also on Instagram at Chad's Photo Hut, ChadSPHOTOHUT. So, yeah, that's it. Mark's and I will be back on Thursday with Zach to talk about comics and shit at twitch.tv/comics and GameCorp. No, Comic and GameCorp, sorry. Twitch.tv/Comic and GameCorp. Or just go to realnerdcorp.com and listen to it once it's recorded. But we'll be back Thursday at 9 p.m. Talk to you then. Tomorrow, me and Zach right here, Wednesday night, 9 p.m., talking Making an Impact. We'll go more into the Joey Ryan, Dave Chris firings, Michael Elgin suspension, this past week's edition of Impact Wrestling, as well as what we think is going to happen with Slammiversary with all of these changes. So with all that being said, we're finally done. It's nearly 3 hours. We're going home. We're going to rest our vocal cords, drink a lot of honey. We're done. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for checking us out. Thanks for giving us a chance. For Mark Streen, I've been Chad Porto. Good night. Goodbye. That's your thing. Sorry, Marcus, take us home.
Good night, me.